Wel, pnawn da bawb, croeso nôl i rhai o'ch chi oedd yma bore yma, ac croeso mawr i rhai oedd ddim. Mark ydw I, a dwi am gyflwyno yn y Gymraeg, and this is Gavin, and Gavin will be talking through the English in a minute. So, diolch i rhai o'ch chi sydd wedi ail ymuno fo ni, a croeso mawr i rhai o'ch chi sydd wedi ymuno fo ni pnawn yma. Fel y bore yma, cyfrannwch os gwelwch yn dda yn y sylwadau lawr yr ochr, gofynnwch cwestiynau wrth i cyflwyniadau cymryd lle. Bydd y cyflwyniadau a'r cyfraniadau ar gael i chi yn cyflwyniadau yn ddwyieithog ar y sianel YouTube yn dilyn y sesiwn. Ac os ydych chi efo ni bore yma, byddwch chi'n gwybod mae'n ambell technical hitch yn digwydd, so just byddwch yn amyneddgar efo ni sgwelwch yna yn y cynhadledd digidol gyntaf. Dos chdi, Gavin.
Okay, so welcome to our afternoon session of our All Eyes on Wales event. Thank you for joining us. Just a few reminders for those of you that were here this morning and anybody new joining us. There is the live chat facility there, so if you log into YouTube, we'll be able to see your comments and questions in there. We've also got the hashtag going on Twitter, hashtag All Eyes on Wales, so you can interact with us there. It'd be great if in the chat you could let us know where you're watching us from and interact with us from there. If we do have any technical issues, please be patient and bear with us. There was a couple this morning, but we got through them, so we'd appreciate your patience with that.
Diolch, Gavin. Wel, drosodd wan i yn siaradwr, rydym falch iawn o croesawu Nick Butler gyda ni pnawn yma. Mae Nick yn athletwr endurance Prydeinig. Mae o'n awdur, mae o'n siaradwr ysgogiadol ac yn berchen record y byd. Nick yw dyn cynta i rhedeg marathon yn bob gwlad yn y byd, anhygol, a dwi'n methu disgwyl i glywed am ei brofiadau anhygol.
So this afternoon we're delighted and thrilled to have Nick Butler with us. He's a British endurance athlete, author, motivational speaker and a world record holder. So Nick is the first man to run a marathon in every country in the world. We can't wait to hear about his amazing experiences. So Nick, over to you.
Thank you very much, gents. I will endeavour to try and cover off as much as I possibly can. I'm going to show you my presentation now, so I'll share my screen with you and talk you through the last 4 or 5 years of my life. Running around the world took me 2 years, 674 days. Let me go to the screen and you'll be able to see much more information than just my face, which is probably what you're after. So, a marathon in every country in the world. It was not an easy start. There's an awful lot to go through. I planned this mission to try and set this world record and to raise some money for prostate cancer. Now, I think the best way by showing you the video, which is a highlights reel, if you like, of everything that I've gone through. Now, if you see a little puppy wandering around in the background here, this is my 7-month-old puppy. I live in a converted van now. I left my old life behind. I'll play this video. You'll have a glimpse of what I went through over those 2 years of running around the world, and then we'll get into all of the detail and I'll share some stories. It's just 5 minutes long and I hope the audio works. So interrupt me if you don't hear it.
Right, so it's now 5 o'clock on the 6th of January 2018. The trip starts here.
Nick, sorry, we can't see your screen.
Let's see what a few weeks brings.
Get that,
Say
Nick.
again.
If you could share your screen again, we can't
Say
see
again.
your screen. We can't see your screen, Nick.
It
should be shared. Can you see that?
No,
not at the moment, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it says it's sharing. Is that any better?
No, sorry, Nick.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Just can't see your screen, Nick, I'm afraid.
No, I can hear you guys. And it says my screen is being shared. Let's try doing that again. Technical hitches. Entire screen.
So it looks like we've lost Nick. We'll just try and reconnect, so bear with us.
Is that working?
Right, Nick, we have you on the screen. Fantastic.
Hey. Okay. I'm gonna carry on then from where I left off, because I'm very conscious we've got a lot to go through. So I'll play this video again. Again, it's the highlights reel of the last couple of years. It gives you the kind of the why behind the journey, and a few little snippets of what it was like to run around the world on your own. So here we go.
Right, so it's now 5 o'clock on the 6th of January 2018. The trip starts here. I'm nervous, excited, and let's see what the next few weeks brings.
What shouldn't be underestimated with a journey like this is the compound effect of running back to back marathons. You know, living off the roadside and sleep deprived, and living in aeroplanes, which are the most, you know, germ-infested places on earth. So this, if he can stay healthy and all the other challenges which come from traveling around the world, he can put one foot.
Years come, so there's a lot that we have to do around the flight sort of strategy. He literally flies into country, the next day runs a marathon, the next day he flies out. So the biggest challenge there is about optimizing his recovery post marathon. So actually running the marathon itself wouldn't necessarily be too big a task for Nick, because he's used to running ultra endurance, so like 24 hours of running and solid stints. The problem is it's the accumulation of having to do that every 2.5 days on average for the next year and a half.
I'm struggling. I'm only 3.2 miles in. The heat is just unbearable, 40 plus. It's just not a good one today. Yeah.
Day 2, 14.
206, 225, 267, 320, 345, 369, 375, 400, 428, 517, 530.
I'm doing this because my friend is dying. Kevin was diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer and was given 2 years to live. Kev said to me, don't wait for a diagnosis. Get out there and... The overall fatigue was one of the hardest things of the whole journey. I didn't miss a single run because it was a case of sticking to the plan. 3 countries a week, 450 odd flights, 22 marathons with food poisoning, 3 marathons with a kidney infection. It's not just about traveling or about sport. I don't have unlimited time. Nobody does. Tomorrow is 100% a maybe. And running around the world means that I met many, many people that pushed me even further to believe in this message. People have made this journey. All my life, there were specific individuals that I probably took for granted at the time that were pushing me ever closer to going off and doing something amazing. And then I go and meet somebody like Kevin. It was shortly after hearing his words, "Don't wait for a diagnosis," and he was the tipping point. You know, I'd been shoved towards the edge of this cliff of adventure, and I thought, I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to do something that I really want to do. I want to kind of invigorate everybody whether it's small or big, to get out there and do something now. Generally, we spend so much time that we intend to do. And this for me is sharing this message of, if you want to do something with your life, then this is the time. How would I feel if I didn't complete the challenge? I haven't thought about that, because it's not a matter of if I will, it's just when. I will complete the challenge.
So I hope you are all still there and you can hear me okay. Can we just check that before I carry on?
Yeah, we're here, Nick.
Fantastic. Good. Just wanted to double check that, because I can't see anything other than the slide I'm looking at. So, right. Thank you very much, everybody. And I hope that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of the whole reason behind it, and kind of my ethos about why I embarked on this journey. Now, in this picture you're looking at now is Kevin Webber at the back middle. People that comes into your lives and changes everything for the better. Now, the guy on the right-hand side with the beard is a guy called Jeff Smith. Now, you probably, if you're in Wales and anywhere near Cardiff, Jeff Smith runs Big Moose Cafe, an incredible guy, Everest summiter, and he was also a huge inspiration to me. And this photo was taken out in the Marathon des Sables desert race, which many of you may know. 7 days of running through 50-degree heat, camping under camel hair bivouacs every evening, and you're punished. And this guy, Kevin, he said to me, like I said in that video, don't wait for a diagnosis. He said to me, don't wait for something to happen. You know, we were just chatting away in the desert, and he drops this bombshell on me that he has terminal prostate cancer. And when you're faced with that opportunity of potentially only living for 2 more years on this planet, everything is all of a sudden brought into focus, and you have this one opportunity. And so ever since meeting Kev, to do things that was what to do with my life, what I wanted my legacy to be. So when I get to my deathbed, I can look back and go, yeah, that's what I did. I wanted to raise some money for Prostate Cancer UK. I wanted to follow his advice about not waiting for something to happen for you to follow your dreams. And I also wanted to be a little bit more grateful for what I had, because I was already living a pretty special life. Now, I'll talk about how I got into running in a moment, but the desert for me was a challenge. And people often say, well, how do you push through and how do you manage to get this done and run? You know, it was 3 marathons a week. Every week in 3 different countries every week for nearly 100 weeks. And so that was tough. It was very, very tough. Financially, logistically, the endurance was on multi-level. But when I went out into this desert and when I met Kevin for the first time, there was about 1,000 people taking part, and I wanted to Now, you can all have a guess of where I finished. It wasn't in the top 20, it wasn't in the top 100. I had a pretty awful accident, and I had loads of blisters on my feet. I actually had 22 blisters, and any of you that are squeamish, look away now because of that photo on the screen. I'll take that off the screen so you're not too horrified. So that blister, that was one of 22 blisters that I had in the journey. My ankle on the 4th day of 7 days, and had to get through the remaining 40 miles of that race with a broken ankle. Now, I could have given up. There was a helicopter on standby to take me away, and to be honest, I wanted to, but there was a part of me after having those conversations with Kev, I was like, you know what? Many people suffer more than I do. Let's get through this race. And ever since then, there was a switch in my mind. Went back home, and I wanted to do something that was going to be powerful and raise some money for prostate cancer and to leave a little bit of a legacy as well. And nobody had run a marathon in every country in the world. So where that moment when I Googled that and they said nobody had run a marathon in every country in the world. And I thought, why not? Like, that's crazy. You've got this amazing world out there and loads of runners, millions of runners all over the world. Let's go and do it. And now I realize why not, because it's really, really hard. Anyway, so my background, this picture of me as I was sailing when I was little with my awful haircut, just like I have now, actually. I was always in sport from a young age. I wasn't really necessarily a very good runner at a young age, but I got into sport, and sport was definitely my escape. I did a little bit of sailing, did a bit of rowing when I was slightly older than that picture as well. And then skiing. I was actually in the under-19s British ski team for a while. And during that time, I was obviously much younger in that photo. And I then got to a point where my parents said to me, especially my dad, he was the voice on my shoulder saying you should probably get a proper job and earn some money in order to have a family one day and to be self-sustaining. And yeah, that's why. And so I went into banking. I went into finance, worked in the city, and I ultimately sold my soul a little bit for some money. But having work ultimately led me to this point. And so sport was just always there. And when I was working, I was earning money, and I still had this urge to go and fill that sporting kind of wish. And so I just came out and I ran for therapy, almost ran for a little bit of an escapism, as many runners do. And then that kind of transpired into much more. And then a few times I was sponsored or approached by some sponsors to ask to go and do some races. And then I ended up in the desert running that horrible hot race where I met Kevin. And that, I suppose, was the switch where I then decided that maybe I should try and get into running more professionally and make it a lifestyle, not really a career, because you don't really make any money out of running. But I'm kind of a lifestyle now. I got everything I had, converted a van to live in when I got back from the journey. I've been living in it now for 7-8 months. And it means I can travel around the country and around the world. And the principal aim was to have this van to live in, to live simply. I've seen a lot of people around the world that don't have anything, and I'm talking about millions of people that just have a bottle of water, if that. And so I thought, let's live simply, and I did. And I'm actually halfway through this big speaking tour when COVID hit. So if you're attached to a school and you want me to come and speak, then let me know, because this presentation, by the way, I could speak for 3 or 4 days on the amount of stories that I have to tell. So I'll get into some of the nitty gritty now. So I went into running, and then I dreamt up this mission of running a marathon in every country in the world. Now, from dreaming it up, which was about 3 or 4 months after meeting Kevin in the desert, to actually getting to the start line on January the 6th, 2018, to try and create this world first, this mission. 2 years. And that long 2 years was stressful, very, very stressful. I would say more stressful than the trip itself, because I had nowhere near the amount of money we needed. I had no idea, I didn't even know how many countries there were in the world. And I then realized I'd bitten off quite a lot, and I had to work quite hard at getting the team together. And so that's when I had all of these other aspects that I had to then build upon. I had to have a team with me. You know, I traveled around the world on my own, but I had to have a team to manage everything from security to passports. Logistics was huge. And it took a long time to get to that start line. And then we needed to think about a route. Where do we go, and how do we even attempt to do this? And we broke the world down into 9 stages, finishing with the final stage in that middle dot there in Athens, which was November the 11th of last year. That's when I finished this round the world mission. Now, of passports that I was going to get through, I got through 9 passports, because they were all full of visas, of stamps. The amount of logistics that you have to consider when going from one place to the next, when some countries don't like one another, is a challenge. So all of those passports, and also a lot of pairs of trainers. If you've done any decent mileage in your training, they went down fairly quickly. He had 22 pairs of trainers with me, and there's 15 icons on this map, and that's because the difference, I actually had either lost or stolen, and there was an incident where I had 2 different islands in the Pacific Islands. I had some pigs. I'd woken up and I left my trainers outside the room to dry, and some pigs were actually eating my shoes, and so I had to scramble to find another pair of shoes before the next run the following day in a different island, which was quite a challenge. And so lots of pairs of trainers, lots of passports, endless logistics to get to the start line. And then, of course, you add in the temperature considerations as well. You know, forgetting all of the politics, all of the war zones of the Yemen, of Syria, of Libya, of Iran, of Sudan, all of those places that are very, very hostile and volatile. You then got the volatility within the temperatures and the climate, and also altitude. You know, running in the Himalayas, in the Pyrenees, there's some mountains there that are pretty hostile. And so my coldest temperature, which is illustrated by that symbol up in Canada, that was actually country number 1. I flew to Toronto, Canada as country number 1, and I ran on the 7th of January, and it was minus 25 degrees C. and that minus 25 degrees was about 15 degrees colder than it should have been at that time. And despite my 2 years of planning, which I thought I did quite well, I ended up borrowing most of the clothes and the hand warmers and the extra buff and the extra hat and gloves, because even with my kit that I took, I was too cold. Skip ahead 8 months-ish, something like that, when I was over in Kuwait, which is that red hot temperature, that thermometer on the map. We got to 59 degrees C in Kuwait, which was virtually unbearable. And I was running at 2 o'clock in the morning, and even at 2 o'clock when I stepped outside the door, it was 38 degrees, and it just got hotter and hotter and hotter. And if you take that green continent, Africa, right in the middle, 54 countries in Africa, the hottest temperature that I experienced in Africa the average temperature I experienced throughout my 9 months of traveling through Africa, the average was 44 degrees C. It was an incredibly hot, double hottest ever London Marathon. So it was brutal, but I learnt to deal with it and crack on. Now, there's just some stats here before we go through. I'm quite proud of some of these. I had 22 different bouts of food poisoning. We've talked through the temperatures. I ran with 9 tons. The British Embassy actually supported me more than I could have ever imagined. They were fantastic. I ran with 41 different British ambassadors, male, female, all races, all nationalities. Fantastic. And then the food poisonings happened, and it got a little bit then dangerous. I was hit by a car, I broke my elbow, I got mugged and attacked at knife point and at gunpoint, you name it. Kidney infections, the kidney infections, which if you've had one, you'll know it is not fun, and trying to get up and run in 40 degrees when you're in Bangladesh and it's very, very humid, and you feel like you're being punched in the side is not great. And yet, the lesson that I learned was if you just put one foot in front of another for long enough, you get the job done, with a huge team behind me that managed to sort out all of the logistics. And just one thing that I'm quite proud of on here, and it's something that I touch on, especially when I speak with a lot of schools, is the contacts that I made. On the first Christmas, midway through the journey, so obviously it was spanning 2 years, and I came back for 3 days during Christmas to pick up a new passport. And I woke up on Christmas morning and I had 61 different nationalities message me on Christmas morning. 61 individual friends that I'd met in that first year messaged me on Christmas morning wishing me happy Christmas. And these were people I'd never met. I'd spent about 2 days with, ran with them maybe. Some of them were just taxi drivers or people I met on the plane. And all of a sudden I was creating this huge network. I learned an awful lot from this journey. But I tell you what, if I could sum the whole thing up in one word, it would be people. People make the world go round and make everything special in your day-to-day life. And so that 2,411 new contacts that I put in my phone, that I'm still in contact with, and I'm bombarded with messages all the time, they are my network, and I'm incredibly proud of them, because they are the people that made my journey happy and memorable for me. The mountain ranges, the volcanoes, the amount of airports we flew in and out of, all of the different types of animals, and that's not including all the different birds all over the world. I was bitten by a dog many times, chased by dogs. I was hosted by nearly 60 families around the world that put me up, and some of them didn't speak any English at all, and so I was having to, or Welsh for that matter, through on and it out. So we've got enough time. So I'll go through as many of these stories as I possibly can. Now, each of these slides kind of tells a tale. This is a photo that I took in Vatican City. This is the smallest country in the world. These are a couple of nuns that I got friendly with, and they chatted to me for about 10 minutes mid-run in Italian, and I have no idea what they were saying, but they were very smiley, and they loved a selfie. So that was a memorable moment, specifically because that route was 82 laps around St. Peter's Square, 82 laps around the Vatican. And there's all sorts of other stories that go along with that as well, because I was stopped by the police a couple of times because it's a very, very busy place, and they were trying to ask me not to run around, and I said no, I have to run around here, and we managed to persuade them through a lot of conversations in broken English and Italian. In terms of routes, this is another one which will forever be in my mind. This is a place called the Marshall Islands. Now, the Marshall Islands is in the Pacific Ocean. This was probably about country number 160, something like that. I was quite close to the end of the trip. In year 2, I was exhausted. I had very long hair. It was super, super hot, and this beautiful island. Now, I landed in the far out of that photo in the tiny little airport, and my hotel that I was staying in was down the other end, off to the left of the screen. Now, when I arrived in the hotel, they gave me my room key, as you do. I was only there for a day and a half, and then they gave me a stick. And I said, why are you giving me a stick? And they said, well, you'll need this stick if you want to go outside. And I didn't fully understand it, and now I very much do. It's that there's a lot of the Pacific Islands that they have a diabetes crisis because of the wild dogs in the islands. They're very beautiful islands, but they're full of wild stray dogs. And they said, if you go outside without a stick, then you're going to get attacked or bitten by dogs. And sure enough, a mile and a half in, I was surrounded by 25 dogs, something like that, pretty big, pretty aggressive. And I'd already been bitten a couple of times, and I didn't want that to happen again. And so I slowly walked away. I was swiping my stick away to make sure that wasn't going to happen. And I got back, and I realized there was a place to run around in circles outside the hotel, and I ended up running 335 laps of the car park with the stick in my hand, pretty scared, in torrential rain in probably one of the most beautiful islands in the country, and I never saw any of the ocean. And that goes to show that I just had to get it done. You know, in my mind, I was well and truly exhausted, and it was a matter of getting the job done and getting it safely without any dog bites. So in terms of safety and dangers, this is a photo from Haiti in the Caribbean. Was once one of the most richest, well, was the richest country on the planet at one point in history. And this place is now very poor. It was country number 4 on my journey, and I hadn't really experienced any poverty. And I arrived here, was shocked by the amount of people living on the streets and the amount of weapons, handguns, automatics, knives, a lot of violence, very visible. And so I hired a driver to drive behind me, which was something that I adopted for many other races, just in case, who also provided me with water. And I was approached many times with weapons to basically relieve me of anything I had on me, like my watches or my phone, which I was running with for music or audiobooks. And luckily, Benjamin, my driver, would be able to speed up behind me and steer them away. But I left that country feeling pretty scared for the rest of the world, because this was a country that we hadn't considered to be very, very dangerous. We ranked all of the countries by a traffic light system, red, amber, and green, being the dangerous ones were red and the completely safe ones were green. And this didn't make red zone, and I'd got another 190 odd countries, 192 countries to go, and I was terrified for the next one. And then things were a little worse. This was a photo I took in Nigeria, in Lagos. Lagos market, the biggest open air market in the world, very hostile, very busy. And I had one of the most scary moments of my life here, where I was attacked and kind of beaten. I had a cracked rib and I had a knife to my throat, and they were offering me to keep all of my possessions. Unfortunately, the people that were supposed to be guarding me managed to steer them away. But the same thing happened, that just increased my fear. And what I've learned now, moment now, that people generally all over the world, 99.999% of people are fantastically lovely and selfless and will do anything for you. And so people say to me, are you going to be scared in other situations? And the answer is no, because most of the time I was safe and I got out of all of the situations alive, and I was okay. There was plenty of other run-ins which could have scared me away. This one is a little video. You don't really need to hear the audio necessarily. It's only about 5 or 6 seconds long. But this is I was out in Namibia, and I was looking. I had a day off, so I very rarely had more than a day or two to myself, and that would include a marathon. So this time I had an extra day. I had a third day in the country where I could rest a little bit more. It was in Namibia. It was quite a cold time of the year, and I went out looking for big cats. Rather than the dangers of people, I wanted to go and experience the world and have a little look and see if I could see some lions or some cheetahs. And I found a guide. He took me out into the bush, many hours away from the city of Windhoek, and he then said, right, well, I've got my gun, we're safe, you go this way, I'll go this way. If you see a cheetah, if you see any animals, just shout. Now, I was pretty confident that there was going to be no animals, because I think he was kind of ripping me off. I didn't think I was going to see any. And he said to me, you're probably going to see some snakes, that's going to be it. And then I was wandering through the bush, completely silent, some birds tweeting, and then this happened. I'll just play the video, then we can pick up.
Hey everybody, I'm out walking with cheetahs at the moment. It's day 181, and there's one right here.
So this was certainly a moment that I hadn't considered to be dangerous, and planned that in my trip, that I thought I might have been eaten by a cheetah. And I later found out, he told me that had she been hungry, that it could have gone a very, very different way. And I actually, she brushed past my trousers and actually touched my leg, and it was the most surreal moment. And it makes you. Before we go on to any more stories, I'm not sure how much time we've got left. There's hundreds more slides on here with all sorts of different stories for each photo. We'll say that the concept of time, the message that I hope some of you will go away with, is that we are very, very privileged. We are incredibly, unfathomably fortunate with our lives. And anybody that can have an iPhone, be able to turn on a tap and have water out of it, which is why now I live in a van, simply because we are lucky, and we have this opportunity, we have a responsibility to go out and explore the world and live passionately with what we want to do and enjoy our lives. As long as you're not hurting or harming anybody else, and you're doing so with good intentions, then I feel like a lot of the planet, especially us privileged people, don't fully use the privilege of time that we have. And Kevin, for me, saying to me that he's only got 2 years to live was incredibly, incredibly. You're listening will act on something, whether it's you want to spend more time with your family, whether you want to go and take up a new sport, whether you want to go and be a poet or join an orchestra, whatever it may be. I'm not about preaching about running necessarily, but see the world, enjoy it before it's too late, because we have this opportunity. And so that's my main message. Now, I could go on and talk about some more stories. How much time have we got, Gavin? What's the clock like?
Hi Nick, that was great. We're still kind of recovering from the cheetah video. Can't believe that it was that close. Yeah, we're up on time, unfortunately. There's a few questions that have come through. I can see Yasmin has answered them. Lots of schools asking how they can book you, how they can get involved. So hopefully they've seen the link. We'll send out the information as well from our point. So it was just to say a huge thank you for giving us your time. We know you're really, really busy. And we need to say for all our speakers today that they've volunteered their time for free. Nobody's taken a fee. So we really appreciate that, Nick. And I don't know if you wanted to say just about the book and the documentary you've got coming out.
Yeah, there was an awful lot to say. Yeah, so the book is coming out. It's currently on Amazon. It's called Running the World. You can pre-order it. The book is done, written. It just needs to now reach the shelves. COVID has delayed that slightly. So the book is called Running the World. You buy. I'm quite proud. There's a lot of stories in there. Slides that I could have gone through today. And if you want me to come and speak in a school or a business or wherever, then please do get in touch with Yaz on that email address, which I think must be in that link, or just go onto the website and email me. And follow my journey now. I think one of the things is, I'm prepping now for my next big expedition, which I can't tell you what it is because I haven't released the details yet. But I have a number of small mini world records which I'm planning in the next 18 months in preparation for another big challenge. And so if you want to get involved, then on my Instagram it's Nick Butter Run. Just say hello to me and let me know. As for the documentary, that will be coming out in February next year, all being well, dependent on the situation with COVID. So that will land on Netflix very soon. So thank you very much for having me, and I hope you managed to hear everything okay. And yeah, have a good rest of the day, everybody.
That's great. Thanks
That's
a lot, Nick.
fantastic. Really, truly inspirational, Nick. Thank you very much indeed. And just a shout out as well to Ystol Custen in Year 6, who have posted to say that they're all watching from home as well. So big thank you for them for joining us. Diolch, Nick.
So we've got a short break now before our next one starts at 10 to 2. So if you can leave this running, and we'll just start up again in 20 minutes time. Okay, thank you.
Diolch pawb. Wel, croeso nôl bawb, welcome back. Mae gen i ni sesiwn wirioneddol rhyngwladol i chi rwan. Gyda ni'n croesawu Joe Carfin a Miguel Gonzalez a'i ffrindiau. Mae gennym ni Thomas un Eldaliaethau, mae gennym ni Anna o'r Ariannin, a mae gennym ni Lac o China a Victor o Mexico yna i siarad fo'n y munud hefyd. Mae Joe wedi sefydlu One World, sydd wedi leoli yn Efrog Newydd, ac mae hefyd Miguel sy'n ymuno efo ni yn gweithio i'r UNFCCC, sef Confensiwn Fframwaith y Cenhedloedd Unedig ar Newid Hinsawdd. Ac mae o wedi leoli yn Bonn yn yr Almaen. Mae One World wedi datblygu rhaglenni ieuenctid sydd wedi gynllunio i ddatblygu cenhedlaeth newydd o arweinwyr. Arweinwyr sy'n ymwybodol o'r byd, yn wybodus o'r byd o'n cwmpas ac yn gallu newid y gwell. Ac yna, bydd Miguel yn ein tywys ni trwy'r broses i fod yn carbon neutral, yn y her uchelgeisiol 100 School Challenge.
Okay, welcome to session 5. We now have a truly international session. So we have Joe Carvin, founder of One World based in New York. We've got Miguel from the United Nations, who's joining us from Bonn. We've got Thomas Ross, a student in Portchester, New York. Anna in Argentina, Victor in Mexico, and possibly Lark from China. So One World has developed an award-winning youth program designed to develop a new generation of globally aware leaders of character, knowledgeable of the world around them, capable of changing the world for the better. And Miguel from the UN will guide us through the process to become climate neutral in the ambitious 100 Schools Challenge. So Joe, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for Gavin and Mark organizing today's event. I have to say, I would very much like to be a Welsh educator today. I think your conference has been fantastic. I managed to listen to Mervy's online social emotional learning. I think Mitifier is a fantastic program. And then it was what a thrill to listen to Nick. We haven't missed any cheetahs here of late here in Portchester, which I guess I'm pleased about. So Gavin, if you'd help me with the presentation, I'm going to try and go through the presentation in about 30 minutes. And I am thrilled to say Lark from China will join us. She happens to be in New York right now. And we also have Rita from Mexico. So I'm going to try and get through and explain One World. Miguel has an absolutely fantastic program. I can't tell you what a wonderful partner Miguel and the UNFCCC have been to One World and to the world in general. And so I want to get through the presentation to make sure we leave at least 10 to 15 minutes to talk. So ultimately, the other thing is I'm not an educator by background, and we'll make these presentations available to everybody. There's some slides at the end that explain my background. But at the end of the day, I'm not an educator by training. And I think in today's increasingly complex world, we need non-educators and educators to come together to prepare our kids for the opportunities and challenges of a 21st century world. And I would argue also that we're at a crossroads. Now, this is not my thesis. Dr. James Martin has created the Oxford Martin School right there in Great Britain. And he's created the 21st century school to basically prepare humanity for the next 4 decades, which he views are critical for our success. And I think nowhere is it more possible to create this transition generation we need to take us from the world we've known to the world that's rapidly coming our way than Wales. So before we start, I want you to think about 2 questions. First question is, we have this quote from John Dewey, right? And I want you to write down, if you would, if you're at home, what are the educational needs of society today? I think one of the big risks in the world today, in education today, is we're preparing kids for a world that no longer exists. Next question I ask you yourself, and this is one that always stumps educators, what is a school? So if you just write that down, and we'll come back and discuss this at the end. Next, please, Gavin. So I've had the good fortune to basically create One World 10 years ago, visit educators across the world. We currently operate in 200 classrooms in 10 countries around the world. You'll hear from some of our educators today, but nowhere on the planet Earth have I found a future-ready, forward-looking curriculum and approach to society like I have in Wales. So I think you guys are really at the forefront, I think it must be a very exciting time to be a Welsh educator. I believe educators are being challenged as never before. You're being asked to prepare kids for a world that no one understands, for jobs that do not yet exist. Next. And again, we'll make these slides available. I'm going to go through them very quickly because I want you to hear from our educators. But there's a lot of hopefully good information, and these comments are not necessarily from me, but from global thought leaders. And this one's from Peter Diamandis. I think he's right. There are two phenomena transforming our world: globalization and increasingly rapid technological change. One question I want to ask yourself: are you future ready? We work very closely with the gentleman who made this comment, Dr. Fernando Reimers from Harvard. And he basically says that those students that are prepared for globalization can turn it into a competitive advantage, and those that aren't may risk falling behind. Next. Here's another educator who's basically telling us that global competence is not a luxury, but a necessity. And oh, by the way, we talk about 21st century skills, but it's 2020. The 21st century is here, ladies and gentlemen. We need to begin to prepare for the 22nd century. Next. Al Gore, former Vice President of the United States, has written a book called Future, and he tells us there's no prior period of change that resembles the kinds of change we're going to undergo right now, which makes it increasingly important for educators and non-educators to come together. He also talks about peril and opportunity. We have huge opportunity and some challenges with emerging technologies. Next. Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab is the founder of Davos. He organizes a think tank every year where he brings the world's global leaders, thought leaders together, CEOs, presidents, and the like. He's written a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. He believes that the fundamental challenge facing humanity today is to understand and shape the technology revolution. And we would agree. Next. Ray Kurzweil is my favorite futurist. If you haven't heard of him, you should look him up. He's written a book called Singularity. Every one worlder knows what this is. And at the end of the presentation, if you remind me, I'll tell you what this means. But basically, since technological change is exponential in nature, basically, one of the real challenges is to understand that we live in a linear world where technological change is exponential. In a linear world, if we take 30 steps, we go from the front of the classroom to the back of the classroom. In an exponential world where you double 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, by the time you've done 30 doublings, you get to 1 billion. Now, people don't understand numbers. 1 billion steps won't take you just to China. It won't just take you around the world one time. It'll take you around the world 25 times. So that's what we're experiencing with Moore's Law, where computing capacity doubles every year. Ultimately, it's that our kids, we have to prepare our kids for a world where you can circumnavigate the globe 25 times versus the front of the classroom, the back of the classroom. That accelerates change. That really talks to a lot about what's happening in today's world. So get ready for 20,000 years of change. And if I ask Gavin to remind me, we're in the year 2020. 2020 is since what? The big font? No, since the birth of Christ. But we're talking about 20,000 years of change. Next. Now, how are we doing? Here's a Harvard biologist who says, who looks at humanity as a species, and he says we've hurtled into the 21st century, a bizarre combination of Stone Age emotions, medieval beliefs, and godlike technology. Now, medieval beliefs for me is the nation state. You guys have a very interesting nation state in Britain, where you have the country of Wales, country of Scotland, et cetera, and you're working across cultures, if you will. I love the fact that this is we're doing this in both Welsh and English. So ultimately, I think, again, people in Wales have a competitive advantage because you're already bilingual. Next slide. And this is the global education gap. Basically, for me, this is fundamental for educators to understand. Technological change is exponential in nature. Society's capacity to manage change is not exponential. So as you can see, there's a big gap between the rapid change in technology and our capacity to manage that change. And I'm calling that the education gap. Next. Now, this is the beauty. If we learn how to surf this technology tsunami, we can bring an end to poverty and hunger. In fact, one of my most proud moments is when we heard from our One World students in Newport, Wales. The 11-year-old got up and said, "What did you learn?" He said, "Well, what I learned is we need to get our skates on. The SDG goals call for an end to poverty and hunger in the year 2030. We only have another 10 years. We want every student across the globe to understand what the Sustainable Development Goals are and how they can contribute to bringing an end to poverty and hunger in the year 2030. Next. Now, again, this Dr. James Martin has written a book called The Meaning of the 21st Century. He put his money where his mouth is. He contributed $150 million to Oxford University to create the Oxford Martin School of the 21st Century. I want to create parallel K through 12 schools in Wales and with the same mindset. But at the end of the day, we're at a crossroads. And we're currently on a non-sustainable path, but at the same time, we're unlocking huge new technologies that could lead to a new glorious civilization if we learn how to manage them. Now, which way are we going to go? Well, that depends on our capacity to understand the options for the 21st century, think logically about our future, and collectively across the globe take rational action. Again, this is where I think Wales has a huge competitive advantage because of your successful futures curriculum. Next. Now, Nelson Mandela. I mean, my goodness, why not use technology to let our greatness blossom? Nelson Mandela was calling for an end to poverty in 2005 in Trafalgar Square in London. Where our goal is to create the transition generation that understands the potential that technology brings our way if we simply can change our mindset to think like global citizens, work together across the globe to learn with and from one another and transform human society. And I think we can do that. It's never been a more important time to be a Welsh educator. You know, educators are being asked to close that education technology gap. Most educators haven't been given the tools. You guys have. And let's see how. Next. You have two fantastic legislation, successful futures legislation that you're working on now, the new curriculum for Wales. You also have the Well-Being of Future Generations Act, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Next. So this is One World. Now, the first three balls, global education, core values, or character education, and service learning, those three together, the yellow, blue, and green balls, those three activities together constitute for us global competence. And ultimately, our goal is to help children understand the world around them and be capable of changing it for the better. Now, as we were started doing this in the first 10 years, pardon me, we realized that unless you understand technology and where it's taking us, you can't understand the world around us. So we're adding a technology readiness component to what we're doing. And also, we realize that in today's world, ultimately, when I graduated college, the goal was to find a job. Today, you need to create your own job. So you need financial readiness. And so we're offering programs this summer. Next week, we're launching an entrepreneurship class. If anybody wants to join, it's free, it's online, it's global, and you just got to sign up and sign your kids up. Okay, next slide. And I think this fits wonderfully well. The reason I'm so excited, and by the way, we were supposed to be in Wales this week. We were celebrating our year-end event in Wales this week. So I want to thank our friends Mark and Gavin and from Ware for organizing today's event in spite of the fact that we couldn't be there. And why we're so excited about Wales is because we think that you really are at the forefront of future-ready education. So global competence, one of your 4 goals, ethical, informed citizens of Wales and the world. Financial readiness, enterprising, creative contributors ready to play a full part in work. There's a real synergy between what you're doing and what we're doing. Next. Technology readiness, ambitious, capable learners, ready to learn throughout their lives. You have to be a lifelong learner. How did you invest in yourself today as a teacher, as a student? And the more you invest in yourself, the more capacity you have to contribute positively to the new world emerging around us. And then character education, healthy, confident individuals ready to lead fulfilling lives. I love Mervi and Might of Fire's social immersive learning. We try and bring some of those same concepts, and we love to work with, we've been promoting Mervi in our classrooms across the world as well. Next. So Wales, the UNFCCC, you're about to hear from Miguel. Again, you can't find a better partner, and One World are coming together. Now, what happened is the Minister of Future Generations, Sophie Howe, presented in Dubai at the World Government Conference. And she sang the praises of Usman, a student from Millbrook in Newport, Wales, and how he basically was forward-looking, future-ready, a global citizen. The kind of global citizen we need to support. And in a community that is a underserved community in Wales. And Usman really surpassed himself with the fantastic educators at that school. I'd love for you to look at that video. What they didn't, Sophie Howe didn't know, is that that student was transformed as a result of our One World Club at his school. As I said, we were supposed to be there for July 6th to 10th. And ultimately, Miguel will talk about this some more, but we're encouraging schools to become carbon neutral now. There's no reason to wait for 2050. Let's help Greta Thunberg by helping our schools. Rather than take Fridays off, why not help your school become carbon neutral now? And Miguel will tell you how to do that in a second. Next. Okay, look. This is the opportunity. Everybody is rightly concerned about the end of jobs. But if we learn how to manage technology, we can bring an end to work. That's the transition. If we can transition from world of end of jobs to end of work, that means you can do whatever you want. And Mark Zuckerberg, in his commencement speech at Harvard, tells us that the principal goal going forward is, what is your life purpose? If you didn't have to work, what would you do? Next slide. So, what are our One World's founding principles and how are we trying to achieve these goals? First of all, our fundamental belief is all human beings share an essential human link. All human beings have value. Second of all, we need new forms of global cooperation. And how are we going to understand this increasingly complex world? By generating respectful, fallible conversations. Next. So we do our program in 3 ways: an enrichment program in clubs and classrooms, school-wide programs, and eventually we're looking to create One World communities. Next. So basically our program is designed for students age 8 to 22. We operate in 200 classrooms in 10 countries, serving 10,000 students with our enrichment program. The clubs generally meet once a week for an hour a week for 25 weeks. I think in Wales, the better way to bring the program is into your classrooms direct. We have 100 hours of curriculum that you can easily, especially if you're an elementary school teacher, incorporate into your classroom. I would love to tell you about how to do that. Next. So we provide you the curriculum, teacher training, ongoing support. We really are trying to create a global learning community. So the curriculum is good. The teacher training, you guys are the teachers. You have the pedagogy. We basically share our view of the world and mindset. Where we really look to differentiate ourselves as the ongoing program support, where we incorporate you into our global learning community. And I want you to, again, think about what a school is, and we'll talk about this at the end, and then we do the program evaluation. Next. So we combine 3 educational disciplines: global ed, character ed, and service learning. We call ECE. We try and provide our students with a worldview, a moral compass, and a positive can-do change attitude. We're really looking to create leaders of character, knowledgeable of the world around them, and capable of changing it for the better. Next. So this is a quote from Jeffrey Sachs, a U.S. economist. And ultimately, we agree that the defining challenge of our age is to recognize that we share a common fate on a crowded planet. 196 cabins, we're all in the same ship. Next. He also says our common fate will require new forms of global cooperation, a fundamental point of blinding simplicity that many world leaders have yet to understand or embrace. Well, we're apolitical, by the way, but I don't think it's hard to figure out which world leader hasn't embraced that concept. And he also suggests that at the end of the day, our success as humanity will depend on our capacity to come together around a shared set of objectives and a practical means to achieve them. Next. So part of what we do, one of the fun things we do is take advantage of the technology. Look how much is technology. Imagine your capacity to deliver online education without Zoom, without the technology you're using. Imagine if this event had occurred 10 years ago. No one would work, no one would be educated. And so we're taking advantage of emerging technology to connect kids around the world to learn with and from one another. I can't wait to connect your classrooms with our classrooms around the world. Next. Service learning is the cornerstone of our project. We are teaching like Wales. And again, the other big Wales competitive advantage is your teaching is student-centered. We try and do everything we can student-centered. So we ask our kids to think about what communities do they participate in, local, regional, national, and global. What are the challenges faced by those communities? Design a solution through a service learning project for one of those challenges. Next. And here's some examples of what we've done. The one in the middle, the kids went out and ended up saving 260 lives. It's a longer story, which I'm happy to talk about. But what was most important, after saving 260 lives, they ultimately said that the lives that were most transformed were their own because they learned they could do it. On the right side, again, our school in Newport in Wales ultimately heard about the fact that in Ethiopia, students, when they reach the age of 12, if they can't afford the 10 pounds to buy a notebook and pen to attend school, they're not allowed to attend school because they can't take notes. They heard that. They raised 200 pounds on a council estate, sent it to Ethiopia to keep 20 kids in school. The more we build our network, the more we can support one another within the same One World family. And finally, my favorite, and we'll hear from some of our friends in Mexico, this little girl in Mexico, I asked, what did you learn? She said, aprendí a cambiar el mundo. I learned how to change the world. And what this school did, again, it's in a poor neighborhood in Mexico City. Pardon me. The kids went out, got plastic bottles, sort of shaped them into toys, sold those plastic bottle toys, raised some money, took the proceeds, bought school supplies for the families living in the garbage dump down the road. And these kids used to think of themselves as poor till they did that project. Next. Everything we do incorporates the Sustainable Development Goals into what we're doing. This is a fantastic opportunity for humanity to come together, and we fully support this. If you want to take global competence school-wide, we've been working with this Harvard professor, Dr. Reimers, who's a thought leader on global competence. He has a 13-step program to make your schools or help your schools become globally competent. We've reduced this to 5 steps. We have an annual conference where we work with Professor Reimers and educators from across the world. We did it twice in 2019, one in February, one in November. We had a number of Welsh educators with us. In fact, Mark and Gavin were very kindly joined us. Maybe you can ask them about their experience. We're hoping to have one next year. I think November's ambitious. It's probably going to be in the spring. And those are the steps to becoming a school of global competence. Next. And then if you want to become a One World School of Global Excellence, we add the 11 steps of school of becoming a good character. This is more fundamental and systemic, and we can talk about that as well. Again, I talk about professional development. We have this annual conference, periodic visits to One World Youth Clubs. You know, ultimately, education is a very siloed industry. Now, you guys in Wales do a good job of sharing experience. That's not done so well around the rest of the world, but we want to help you share experience, not just in Wales, but across the world. And finally, our year-end celebration, if anyone wants to join, will be on July 30th of this year. It will be virtual as well, but come join the fun. Next. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what you guys answered, what is a school? And ultimately, if we had time to converse, we'd love to, and we could talk some more about this. But ultimately, generally, a school is considered a learning community, generally in a specific location within certain walls. I would argue One World is a global school, a 21st century school, because we're a learning community where we're trying to prepare kids for the 21st century opportunities and challenges. And so we'd love to have come join our school. And what have we developed? We've developed a global platform for good, which we'll hear about more in a second, a global platform for peace, and a global platform to address 21st century challenges. So we think we've created a 21st century school. we would like for you to think of every One World educator, and you meet a couple in a second, as your colleagues working down the hall, share ideas with. Next. So we're also, really accelerating our online program offerings. This summer, we're offering already a global competence and financial readiness program. We're launching next week an entrepreneurship program in technology and society. If you're interested, you have Thomas Ross's email right there. Contact Gavin or Mark. You're more than welcome. Both programs are for students 8 to 22. And it's really learning by doing. So you're more than welcome to join our summer program. It's all virtual. If we have a cohort from Wales that's interested, we'll work out the time so the time zone differences aren't a problem. Next. One thing we really try to do is take the students beyond the classroom into the real world. We're very fortunate to work with the UNFCCC. We're going to hear from Miguel Alejandro in 1 second. He works at the United Nations UNFCCC Framework Convention on Climate Change. He'll talk to you about our 100 School Challenge and maybe a little bit about our annual EcoX project. Next. We're going to hear, after we hear from Miguel, we'll hear from our student educators, and Lark Wen from China as a last-minute addition, and we'll hear from these other educators. And then the last one, I think, Gavin. Perfect. We're going to turn it over to Miguel Angel Alejandro Naranjo Gonzalez. Miguel, over to you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Can you hear me? Perfect. Hello, afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. Good morning to Joe. Thank you very much for the invitation. Happy to be with you. I think Joe has presented me in a terribly good light. I hope that our support is deserving of those kind words. And we'll see. I think you'll have the opportunity to check if Joe's words are true or not. If you want to collaborate in this 100 carbon neutral schools challenge. So let me try to share my screen. I select the window. And then Gavin and colleagues, if you can let me know when it's being shared. Perfect. Great. So let me put it in full screen mode. And is it looking correct, or is it the wrong one?
So Miguel, we haven't got full screen yet.
You have full screen?
No.
No. Let me see. Last time we had to change. I think this will help. Just a second. Not yet, right?
Not yet.
All right. Do you want to maybe show them from your side?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you so much. Apologies for the complication. So while we're getting started, I can tell you, or just to remind you, I work for the UN Climate Change Secretariat, or the UNFCCC Secretariat. Our main task is to support national governments around the negotiations on climate change, and and let me stop sharing my screen, right? Stop screen. Over to you. Supporting national governments around the negotiations and following up with the agreements that they reach. Most recently, of course, the Paris Agreement on climate change. But they have asked us to also start working more with other organizations. Thank you so much. You can leave that slide. They have asked us to work with other stakeholders in society with what we call, it's not a nice name, non-party stakeholders, meaning everyone who is not a national government. So private sector, academia, NGOs, everyone else in society, including, of course, educational institutions. And that's the team that I am a part of, the team that is engaging with these other stakeholders to try to promote and facilitate as much as possible action on climate. Now, as a background to that, I just wanted to mention very briefly what the United Nations is, because I often find that people are familiar with the name United Nations, but they are not familiar with how it works, what it really is. And so the UN was born after World War II with two main purposes. One, avoid World War III, so help maintain peace. And second, promote respect for human rights. And those were the initial mandates, or the initial reasons for establishing it. However, as work started around these topics, very quickly governments realized, everybody realized, you cannot really protect human rights or maintain peace if we are destroying the environment. So we have to protect the environment, and they created an environment organization, UNEP, or UN Environment these days. Then they realized, well, but actually we cannot maintain peace if there is hunger. We also have to work on hunger. So there is a food and agriculture organization and a World Food Program, etc. So as they started working on this, we quickly realized that actually all topics are interrelated. And today there are around 68 different organizations within what is called the UN system. And the US system, what it is basically an association of the national governments of the world. It's all the national governments of the world representing their peoples that come together under the umbrella of the United Nations as a neutral space where they can try to find solutions to the common challenges that we are facing. Many of the challenges, if not all of the challenges that Joe just mentioned, and many more. And everything that we do is mandated by government. So when you hear the United Nations decided to do this, or the United Nations didn't do that, what it actually means is national governments acting under the umbrella of the United Nations have decided to do this or not do that. So we, the staff of the United Nations, we are international civil servants, and we follow the mandates given by government. In that sense, we are your servants, right? We are working for national governments that are, in the end, representing you. So to close the circle, the United Nations is you. So everybody should see the United Nations as being or an organization that is there for them. It's sometimes difficult to interact with us because it's so many topics, so few resources, but the work that we do is on behalf of everyone. Next slide, please. And this is us. This is the UNFCCC Secretariat, or the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change Secretariat. That's the full name. As I explained, we support national governments on the negotiations around climate and helping them follow up with the agreements that they reach. The most relevant one right now is the Paris Agreement, and it aims to maintain global warming to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, and ideally 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming on the one hand, and on the other hand, adapt to the changes that climate change, that global warming is already provoking. Even if we stopped emitting all greenhouse gases that cause global warming today, the climate will continue to change for a long time into the future. So there are some changes that we will have to live with already. And that's the other element of the agreement, adapting to those changes. And very importantly, one of the goals within the agreement to achieve both things, adaptation and reduction of emissions, or limiting temperature rise, is achieving global climate neutrality by mid-century. So by 2050, we have to be emitting as much as nature can absorb. And we will talk just a little bit more in a second. Next slide, please. So just to remind you why the topic of climate change is so relevant today. Why is it the topic of the day? Well, simply because we are not talking about the future of the climate or saving the polar bears, or helping people that are living at sea level. It's not only about that. It's about the very existence of society as we know it. climate change is right now a threat to the very existence of our society. That society that Joe was just talking about, that is now quite global, quite interconnected through technology. We have always been interconnected. Everything is interconnected, but now with technology, it is even more obvious. And climate change threatens with destroying the basis for that society. Now, that's one of the things. The other thing is we have very little time left before we reach that target of 1.5 degrees Celsius that we mentioned. It is estimated, according to the latest report, that in as little as 10 years, by 2030, less than 10 years, we could already reach 1.5. We are already at 1.1. So it is very important to act as fast as possible. We really have to act as this is an emergency, as we are in a war against climate change, and we have to throw everything we have at it. That's why it's the topic of the day. And again, it's not only a topic about the environment. This is about our very existence. This is about the work that you do as well, education of children. There will be no education of children the day that our society crumbles because of the consequences of climate change. Even the NATO, the organization of the North Atlantic Treaty, it is eminently a security and military organization, and they have ranked climate change as the biggest challenge, the biggest threat to global security. So it's not only organizations like us, United Nations, or environmental NGOs calling for action on climate. Even NATO is calling for action on climate. This is a threat to the existence and definitely to the peaceful existence of our society. Next, please. So this we already touched upon. The way the response is being organized is not only about climate, it's part of a wider agenda that we call Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. It's built on 5 pillars, which are people, planet, and probably you expect profit, people, planet, profit, the triple bottom line. But in this case, profit changes to prosperity, which is a more holistic concept of well-being, but also peace and cooperation, right? Partnerships. Because it's clear that without sustainable development, we cannot achieve peace. And if there is no peace, there is no sustainable development. And all of this is not possible without working together, which is what One World is about, which is what we're talking about today, collaboration. So climate change is one of the topics in this agenda, probably the most urgent one right now, but it's part of a wider agenda, a wider set of goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, that are all interconnected. Next, please. So we need to achieve a climate neutral future. What does that mean? And you might hear also the terms carbon neutral, net zero, and now there are others, right? Carbon negative, climate positive, and all kinds of definitions coming up. In the end, the simple definition is we need to achieve a status where what we as humanity, we emit of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere is balanced with the capacity of the planet to absorb it without further climate change, without further global warming, without further global warming. And we need to get there in 2050. So 30 years time. May it sound like a lot? It's not. We have very little time. Next, please. So to promote and facilitate a little bit contribution by everyone to that final goal of global climate neutrality, we set up an initiative that is called Climate Neutral Now, where we invite all organizations and also individuals and households can do it. But we focus on organizations, companies, and other types of organizations. And we invite them to estimate the carbon footprint, how much greenhouse gases they produce, try to reduce those emissions as a second step, and finally compensate or offset all or part of the emissions that they cannot currently avoid, those emissions that they were not able to reduce, as a way to, again, accelerate the move to global climate neutrality. Yes, next, please. You were right on the spot. And the way it works is quite simple. The initiative is very flexible. There is a document that we call the pledge, where you commit to doing those 3 steps: measure, reduce, and offset. And you have flexibility to select how you're going to complete each of those 3 steps. We can provide guidance. We can help you in each one of those 3 steps. But you have flexibility to define how far you can go right now. We, of course, invite you to go all the way, to do all the effort that you can, but it's up to you to decide. We help you across the process. Once you have completed the 3 steps, we check the documentation and you become part of the Climate Neutral Now initiative. You can participate for as long as you want. So the idea is participants report every year, because we have continuous emissions, right? So you have to try to reduce it continuously, and then whatever you cannot avoid, then you can compensate also continuously, year on year. So you can continue doing this for as long as you wish. There is no participation fee. There are no consequences if you stop participating, and we make no profit from this. This initiative is managed by us, but we have no commercial interest in it. Next, please. As I was saying, we can support you through the 3 steps of helping you calculate what is the footprint of your school, of your organization. We have some tools, and we perform the calculation ourselves and discuss with you the results. Then we have also tips on how to reduce, and we can discuss about that as well. And finally, there is an online platform where you can get the carbon credits, the carbon offsets that you would need to offset whatever you decide to offset. And these offsets are recognized or generated under the United Nations certification process. And again, this is completely independent from us. We make no profit from this. Next slide, please. We are missing one slide here, Gavin, which is the one with the schools. Sorry, we sent it later. I think we sent it yesterday, but this is where I was going to introduce the collaboration with One World. No problem. Imagine that instead of these logos of famous companies and organizations that are participating right now in Climate Neutral Now, you also have around 40 different school logos. That's the number of schools approximately that we have currently on Climate Neutral Now that have committed to doing these 3 steps. And we have engaged almost all of them through One World. The idea is through the One World, we can provide you the guidance to, again, complete each of those 3 steps, and for you to receive recognition in terms of having your logo as a member of the initiative in our website. You are able also to use our logo, the initiative logo, to communicate your participation among your community, your students, your parents, everyone else, the professors, etc., from your side. And the idea is this will serve as an incentive for you to look more closely into what could be done at school level to address greenhouse gas emissions, both from the side of reducing, which is the first focus, and then if you have the resources and if you have the interest, the compensation as well to support projects that reduce emissions somewhere else. Good. This is the collaboration, the specific part of the collaboration with Joe and team. Next. And this is the final thing I already mentioned. We have several platforms through which we try to give recognition to participants in the initiative. So you would be having access to all of this. In addition to our webpage, the Global Climate Action Platform, or NASCA platform, which lists commitments by thousands and thousands of organizations related to climate, also includes all of the Climate Neutral Now participants, and we can support your communications around the participation in the initiative. If there is a way that we can encourage your community, the students, first of all, students and teachers, first of all, but maybe also beyond that, the families, etc., to also understand their impact on climate and try to address it. We're always happy to try to explore and support those kinds of things. And there may be also opportunities at some point to participate in events that we organize. Joe has joined us and Gavin have joined us in one previous event. And we also have an awards process where we have One World applying, I think this year as well, and a few schools. And through this award ceremony, some of the best initiatives for addressing climate change are highlighted. And Climate Neutral Now is one of the themes in those awards, so you are eligible to apply when you participate in the initiative. Anyway, different platforms, different channels to try to give also visibility to the effort that the participants, and in this case schools, put into measuring, reducing, and finally compensating their climate or carbon footprint. So with that, I think I'm finished, and we have someone else after me. Happy to answer any questions, and I hope that when the situation comes back to some kind of normal after COVID-19, you can join the 100 Schools Carbon Neutral Challenge, and maybe we make 1,000 schools instead of 100. So looking forward to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. And again, I think you've already seen, but we wouldn't launch a 100 School Challenge without the extraordinary support from Miguel. And I'm confident he will prove every bit as much, if not more, the support that he's provided over the years. And I can't thank him enough for being our partner. Thank you for the presentation, Miguel. Well, I want to get to the other One Worlders, and then we're going to open it up for conversation as well. So, Gavin, if you could introduce our first student, Thomas Ross. I'd like to see Thomas Ross on the screen, and we're going to try and get about 1 minute from each of our One Worlders from around the world. So, Thomas Ross, would you tell them about your experience with One World, please? And I think there you go.
Yep. Thank you, Joe, and thank you everyone for having me. I'm very honored to be here and be able to speak about my experience with One World. So I'm a high school senior in the United States, so it's my 12th and last year. And I've been a part of One World for about 4 years now. And in my experience with One World, I've gone across the world. I had the wonderful opportunity to visit China. And this time last year, I was in beautiful sunny Wales, hoping to be there again this year. But unfortunately, that wasn't possible because of the pandemic. But in my experience with One World, I really, truly understood what it was to be a global citizen. And for me, that meant when I left my community and I went to another community, it felt like I was part of one big community. And understanding the differences and understanding our different cultures is something that you can't teach in the classroom. And for me, my 4 years in One World has been more valuable than my 12-year education for that reason alone. I feel I've been transformed as a human being just by understanding and being exposed to different cultures other than my own. And I think my life is completely different.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thomas always surprises me and how articulate, and thank you so much, Thomas. I'm going to now ask Lark Wen to come up. Lark started our program in China. And Lark, could you share your One World experience as well, please?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. I'm honored to have this opportunity to share my One World experience with everyone. I have been involved in One World for almost 10 years right now. When I was working at the Confucius Institute for Business in New York, I know One World and I know Mr. Joe Curran, and their essential principles, 3 principles impressed me most. One is we are all human beings. We share the common human link. We are more similar than we are different. I think that alone impressed me and touched me. And I think, especially in today's world, we really need a new form of cooperation. One World provides us with this platform. So when I came back to China in 2013, I brought One World back with me. And then we started to work with the Jilin Primary School and other primary schools. And we have done so many activities like the EcoAct activity and also global competence training, also character education. We work with the character.org. So Jimmy Primary School has grown into such a different school. And because of our excellent contribution, we were awarded the Sycamore Reward last year. Joe Curran went to Nanjing to receive the reward, the award, yes. And so that is something we have done, that we are going forward. We are working with different organizations and hoping that in next year we can develop into 100 schools in China. And we really hope next year this conference could be held in China, and welcome all of you to go to China to attend next conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lark. Thank you very much. And we're going to now hear from Ana Perano from Argentina.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Joe. Hi, Wales. Good afternoon to everybody, and good morning for the ones that are in the morning. Our experience in Argentina, I'm going to talk about the summer program of financial readiness. We had already Joe's generous teaching, and it's amazing how kids that are from 10 years old, 11, 15, 16, they are learning their first steps in financial readiness. They are managing themselves, they are practicing themselves, things that maybe they are not teaching them today how. And it's very important to link what Joe says, that maybe what would you do for a living if you didn't work? And just that question to a kid, it's like a world of opportunities. And maybe not all the kids have that where they go to school. So I think that it's a new way, and it's a very concrete way to see how the global world or the global education of one world is working, no? So we're very happy to and very fond of participating in the program for Argentina, that we are in the south, and with not everybody knows English, but we're trying to work hard with our Mexican friends, and Joe makes a great effort to translate things and gives lots of opportunity to many kids that if not, they wouldn't have the opportunity to see the world. So thank you very much, and very proud to be here in this conference in Wales, and a big hug to my friends in Wales as well.
Thank you so much, Ana. Thank you. And now we'll go to Mexico. I guess we'll hear from Victor Nambo, and I'll help translate a little bit. Victor's still working on his English, so I'll translate. Voy a traducir para ti, Victor.
Muy bien. Muchas gracias, Joe. Saludos a todos. Es un gusto estar aquí con ustedes y les voy a platicar mi experiencia en el proyecto One World.
Okay, so I'm going to thank you. It's an honor to be here. Welcome, everybody. And I'm going to talk about my One World experience.
Tengo 15 años trabajando como maestro, y hace 3 años que conocí el proyecto One World. Soy un maestro diferente.
So I have 15 years as a teacher, and it's 3 years ago that I came across One World, and I'm a very different teacher today.
Llegaba a trabajar a mi escuela como todos los días, de lunes a viernes. Cuando conozco a Joseph Carvin, el proyecto One World, conozco más métodos, tengo más oportunidades de trabajar con mis alumnos en educación.
So he said now that he's had an opportunity to get to know One World, he has a whole new set of methodologies and concepts that he can share with his students in Mexico.
Tengo alumnos que aprenden ahora más con el proyecto One World, y una de mis grandes satisfacciones es conocer a grandes maestros en otros países y haber estado en Gales.
He said one of the big thrills for him with One World is to meet educators from across the world. And in particular, he's very pleased with the fact that he's able to travel to Wales a couple of years ago.
Y por último, ha sido un gran placer trabajar con Miguel Alejandro Naranjo, que nos ayudó a certificar nuestra escuela. Creo que fue la primera en México, y estamos muy orgullosos, gracias a One World y a Miguel Naranjo.
And he said he also wants to send a big thanks to Miguel Alejandro for his support in helping his school become the first school in Mexico to become climate neutral. Muchas gracias, Victor. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And Rita, ahora tenemos la bella Rita.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Rita. I am from Acapulco, Guerrero, Mexico. Buenos días a todos. Yo estoy muy contenta de participar. Muchas gracias por la invitación que nos hicieron para participar en este maravilloso proyecto. Tengo muchas satisfacciones de estar en One World. Una de ellas es que se ha expandido el proyecto. Iniciamos en Acapulco con una escuela secundaria, después fueron 2 y ahora yo estoy coordinando 30 escuelas entre preescolar, primaria, secundaria y también escuelas de educación superior.
Okay. Un segundo, Bachos, ahora. So Rita, obviously, she said welcome in English, and she said one of the things she's very pleased with the speed with which One World has expanded in Acapulco. They've gone from 1 school now to 30 schools in Acapulco. Okay.
Gracias. El impacto que ha tenido One World en los estudiantes es enorme. Uno de ellos es el fomento a los valores humanos. Sobre todo, trabajamos mucho lo que es el trabajo colaborativo, el amor hacia sí mismo, el amor hacia los semejantes. El hecho de que un ser humano...
Disculpa, Rita, déjame traducir antes que me olvido. So basically, just a number of advantages of One World. One of the things that she's found very useful in Acapulco is the emphasis on character education and the love for oneself and the ability to collaborate and love for others as well. Okay.
El hecho de que los estudiantes, como seres humanos, estén para otros seres humanos, eso se ha visto el trabajo a través de los proyectos colaborativos, los proyectos de servicio, por lo que hemos estado trabajando en comunidad. Hemos estado trabajando con...
Déjame traducir. So one of the things that she likes is the fact that they're working together as a team across borders and within Acapulco itself to reinforce the teaching with each of their students. Okay.
Sí, hemos estado trabajando y ha impactado nuestro trabajo en padres de familia, en los estudiantes, lógicamente en los docentes que están muy comprometidos con el proyecto y sobre todo también con las autoridades educativas que nos han apoyado y nos han abierto sus escuelas. Entonces yo agradezco a One World todo este apoyo.
So what Rita was saying is it's had an impact on teachers, the educational authorities, and of course on the students. And ultimately, she's seen as a very positive force within Acapulco.
Sí, y algo último que quiero es que este impacto que ha tenido One World en nuestras escuelas se ve reflejado en la sonrisa de los niños cuando participan. Se ve reflejado en la disposición que tienen al trabajo y sobre todo en una convivencia sana, pacífica y sobre todo libre de violencia.
Okay. And what Rita would like to say, and Rita's a bit of a poet, so I'll try my best. She said the One World work is reflected in the smiles of her students, the enthusiasm with which they take on their work, and overall a willingness to collaborate such that they can begin to overcome some of the big problems of violence that they encounter in Acapulco. Muchas gracias, Rita. Muy amable.
Pronto nos vemos en Gales.
So we'll see you soon in Wales. Thank you so much. We all would have been in Wales. All of us would have been in Wales at this time. So Gavin, we did want to leave it open for some questions. And Mark and Miguel. So I don't know if you can show all of us on the screen, but ultimately, I don't know if there's any questions for us at this point in time.
Right, Joe, we're a bit short for time. We've only got 2 minutes before we need to go for our next session. So unfortunately, we haven't got enough time for questions, but we'd just like to say a huge thank you to everybody for participating. I think it's great that the technology allows us to communicate with you in New York, and we've got Argentina and Mexico. And I think it shows our schools what is possible and how they can connect and make that truly global classroom. We'll share all the presentations, so everybody watching now will get all of the presentations, all of the information. And Rita sent me a presentation, so I'll make sure I share that as well.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to say, Gavin, so if anybody's interested in the summer program, please that they should contact us. My contact details are in the presentation. Thomas's contact details. Also, if you want to start a One World classroom or club this fall, please get in touch as well. We're really making a big push in Wales. We think you guys are at the forefront of education globally, and we'd love to work with you to continue to build on that advantage. Thank you so much for organizing today. Thank you to the One Worlders for participating. Miguel, special thanks to you. Let's get that 100 School Challenge. Let's make Wales, put Wales at the forefront. Green Wales, #1 globally, led by Wales schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so diolch yn fawr iawn i Joe ac i Miguel a'i ffrindiau yn fyna. Mae yna patrwm yn datblygu yn fyma. There's a pattern that's developing through every session today. The words future, y dyfodol, next generation, cenedlaeth nesa, well-being lles, sustainable development, datblygiad cyflogadwy, llais y disgybl, learn a voice, gwydnwch, resilience, a datblygiad cymeriad, character development. And I think it's all linking together to ethical informed citizens a dinasyddion egwyddorol gwybodus, a pedwar diben, the 4 purposes. So we're going to take a short break now, cymryd toriad bach wan, a fydden ni nôl am chwarter wedi 3. Chwarter wedi 3? Ie, chwarter wedi 3, lle fydden ni'n siarad efo Ben o'r cyfeillgarwch, the kindness, and Ruben from Bangor University, Ruben o'r Brifysgol Bangor. So diolch am ymuno efo ni, a gawn ni dipyn bach o comfort break wan, a nawn ni weld chi nôl mewn tua 5 munud ar 20 in about 25 minutes. Okay, diolch yn fawr iawn pawb. Wel, croeso nôl pawb, a diolch ail ymuno efo ni i'n sesiwn olaf. Ga i ofyn ffarb i chi sgwylwch yna, ga i ofyn i chi roi unrhyw sylwadau neu adborth o'ch profiad chi heddiw yn ystod y sesiynau. Os rydych chi roi ei lawr yr ochr, fyswn ni'n gwerthfawrogi hynny yn fawr iawn. Mae heddiw yn ffordd newydd o weithio, tro gyntaf i ni weithio fel hyn, a fyswn ni'n gwerthfawrogi unrhyw adborth sydd gennych chi i galluogi ni symud ymlaen.
So good afternoon, welcome to our final session. It's been great seeing all your comments in the side. For this session, this is a new way of working for us, so any feedback you've got, we'd really appreciate it. You don't need to say about our matching shirts, we've already had that feedback, so if you keep it down to the format, if you've enjoyed it, and hopefully it's something we could look to do in the future.
Diolch Gavin. Wel, gyda ni rwan yn nestyn croeso i'n siaradwyr olaf ni, a da ni am dechrau efo Ben, a mae Ben yn gweithio'r mudiad caredigrwydd. Mae Ben yn siarad am garedigrwydd yn ein cymdeithas, a sut y gallant fod yn garedig gyda'n hunan, ac eraill mwyn cael effaith ar ein gymuned byd-eang. Neges pwysig iawn ar adeg yma pan mae caredigrwydd yn allweddol wrth gwrs.
So welcome to Ben from the Kindness Movement. So following on from our international tour, we're now going to Switzerland, where Ben is. We'll talk to us about kindness within our society and how being kind to ourselves and others can have an impact on our global community. It's a really important message, particularly at this time when kindness is free. So Ben, over to you. Sorry, Ben, we've got a few audio issues. We've got a bit of background interference. We'll try your link again. No, we can hardly hear you. No, we're still in there, Ben. What we might do, if you could, Ruben, I don't know if you're on standby, we could maybe go to Ruben and Ben to try and work out links and things to do. Okay?
Okay, so change of plan. We're going to go to Ruben now, and we'll try and reconnect with Ben in a bit in Switzerland. So, dwi rwan isio estyn croeso i Ruben. Mae Ruben yn gweithio yn Brifysgol Bangor, a bydd yn rhannu sut mae'n datblygu cysylltiadau rhyngwladol ar gyfer ysgolion ledled Gogledd Cymru. Mae yna gymaint o gyfleoedd anhygol allan yna i staff a disgyblion, a bydd Ruben yn rhannu hyn gyda ni pnawn yma.
So Ruben works at Bangor University. He will share how he's developed international links for schools across North Wales. There are so many amazing opportunities out there available for our staff and pupils, and Ruben's going to share with us how we can do that. So good afternoon, Ruben. Over to you.
Good afternoon. The sound okay?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Just checking. Okay, brilliant. So, well, I'll be presenting, I'll be talking about information about internationalizing education. So opportunities as, well, as you've just heard, for our schools here in the north and also all over Wales to join in strategies and different types of projects and funding opportunities that are out there for us to use, basically. Na I cyflwyno trwy'r Saesneg ond dwi'n credu bydd y sleidio ar gael yn y Gymraeg hefyd os da chi isio. So, well, to begin with, we can go to the next slide. Like I'm going to divide this presentation in 3 different sections. I'm going to be talking about Erasmus Plus, and one of the projects we've been running here in North Wales, and we've just finished, actually, like we were handing in the report last month. So we are now just translating it into Welsh, and we'll be handing in the Welsh version in August. So in this Erasmus Plus project in North Wales, I'll be talking about the case study of digital competency in action. And yeah, I'll need to click. Sorry, I don't have the slides here. Yeah, thank you, Gavin. And then I'll be talking about another funding opportunity that is the Connecting Classrooms Through Global Learning in North Wales. This is, well, the first one, Erasmus Plus, is funded by the European Commission, and, well, but the Erasmus scheme, that is something bigger, actually, above the Commission. And then Connecting Classrooms is a program that it's funded by the British Council. And I'm going to be talking about two of the case studies here in the north, that is the Zambia and Lesotho clusters that got successful applications going on this year. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about international languages in schools in North Wales, how important this is for the new curriculum as well, where like we have this international language element, and how we are actually trying to make it easier for schools all over Wales to integrate and incorporate this element. So I'm going to be talking about the Roots Cambridge Roots into Languages project, and this is actually a fully funded project as well, that it's available there and for all of you to use. So take notes, and also I'm very happy to be contacted. My email address was at the beginning of the slides, and then any information you would like, I am very happy to contact you with further information after the presentation today. So first of all, I'm going to talk about this Erasmus Plus in North Wales, and I'm going to present if we can go to the next slide, the International Links program that is actually something that was introduced by Cardiff Council. So next, please. Yes, I put 3 logos here because even though it was originated in Cardiff Council as this international school linking network, now we are also using the International Links logo for schools actually outside of the Cardiff Council area. So we are moving also into England, and I'm going to show you why this is successful. This is a scheme that works under subscription. So unfortunately, it's not funded by any institution, but by their own school. But schools that join our program get a lot out of it, or can get us a lot if they proactively join into the applications. So it is important to work internationally. Probably you all know because of the Donaldson report, the Global Futures Strategy as well, that it's been it's been proactively promoted by the Welsh government, and the new curriculum for Wales that is coming soon, and that it's got this international language and element and global citizenship. So there are many important reasons why we want our schools to work internationally. And if we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, these are, if you would like to tweet, or you can check our Twitter accounts, and then you can see their photos and comments of all the schools all over Wales about what they think of this experience. And I wanted to show you this 2014-2016 funding change, because you are going to notice if you have a look at the schools funding, Erasmus funding, that is the third row in this table. In 2014 and 2015, you can see how it changed in 2016 when we started working with the schools in Wales. We moved the fundings that the schools in Wales were getting from 600,000 to nearly 3 million. So this is what we do, basically. And we started being successful in 2016 when Cardiff Council decided to offer this a service, not only in Cardiff Council, but also all over Wales. And now, as I mentioned, we are even working with England as well. So I'm going to tell you just very, very little about what Erasmus is. Maybe some of you already know, but just a brief introduction. And next, please. These are like the 2 types of Erasmus grants or scholarships that we use, well, funding schemes that we use. One is the Key Action 1. And Key Action 1 basically is CPD. It's for school staff training. Mainly, schools choose to train their teachers. But I usually, when I visit the schools and I talk about this service, I usually mention and emphasize that it is for any members of the staff in the school. So we've had teaching assistants and other members of the staff joining these trainings. This is the largest part of the program with under 75% of UK budget. And basically what happens here is that the teachers in your schools go for at least 1 week a year to another country to undertake a training. And the training opportunities that we've been asked to organize have been outdoor learning, digital competency. We've had, well, within digital competency, we've had workshops about robotics. We've got coding. We've also done a lot of global futures, so language experiences in other countries, like teachers that wanted to acquire or to brush up their language skills, or to check how other bilingual countries in the world work. So we've had many teachers like going job shadowing, just going for 1 week to another school in the EU or in the Erasmus area network, because it is actually larger than the EU. And yeah, basically like doing there the 1 week training. Then we've got also the key action 2, and that's on the, well, in the next slide. And key action 2 are partnerships. There are different types of key action 2 as well. You can choose one that it's only one school with one other school, or you can have one where it's a cluster of schools with a cluster of schools in another country and up to 3 countries even. So this is the one that I'm going to be talking about today, that it's the Key Action 2 partnership. Is we've got here in North Wales, one cluster of schools doing a Key Action 201, that is the one with lots of schools and lots of institutions in different countries. But again, there are also like smaller versions where you can just decide to write your own application to work with one other school for 1 or 2 years. In our case, this is a bigger application, so we got funds for 3 years, for including many institutions from all over the EU. Well, actually, in this case, for 3 particular countries in the EU. If we move on, these are the type of activities that we could actually, that sum up the Erasmus program. Schools use it for course curriculum development, for learning, teaching, training, youth work methods, approaches and tools, collaboration and peer learning. Here we would have the job shadowing component as well, capacity building and networking, information, advice and guidance activities, surveys, evidence gathering, case studies, development of standards and profiles, improvement of qualification frameworks, and teaching, training, and learning activities. I've used these 3 slides from the official Erasmus. It is open and it is for us to use. These are the slides available at the Erasmus information website that you can find links at the British Council website, or you can also find them directly if you Google it. And you will be able to find out more information about how Erasmus works. Also, I am very happy for you to contact me if you would like more information. But what I'm going to do today is to talk about one of the case studies here in the north. And if we go next, please. And this case study is Digital Competency in Action, a project that we started here in the north. With 5 schools, and if we can see them, yeah, this is the logo actually, and the 5 schools are in the real area: Esgol, Manuel, Brynheaded, Christchurch, Castell, and Llywelyn. Maybe some of you are from these schools. I cannot see you today here. That's one of the one of the little things with this new format. Yeah. But maybe you are actually in one of these schools and you are familiar with what I'm going to tell you. And actually, this logo was created. It was very interesting. It was part of the project. Pupils in all the schools in Real and also in the schools in Spain and Romania that are part of this project participated in a competition to design the logo for the project. Then well, a school in Spain, I believe, that won, and then the cluster in North Wales digitalized it, thanks to their participation in workshops in the G2G Center for Robotics and school activities that have been actually very proactively involved in this project through the schools, through the cluster in Real. And actually, like, this is the logo. It's a very nice logo. We are very proud of it. And then if you click, you'll see like the partner countries, that it's schools in Spain and local authorities in Spain, and also schools in Romania and local authorities in Romania. And then what this project has been actually particularly important for, at least in the case of the Welsh schools, is, if you click, we'll find it out. Yeah, the digital I'm missing here. Yeah, digital competency framework in Wales, and also the European digital framework. So these schools in Wales were developing the DCF for the Welsh curriculum, but also at the same time, like, they've been by engaging with the other schools, they've been actually proactively promoting the European digital framework. That actually it's the base for the Welsh one. So actually many similarities. What we've done in this project, if you click, we can see the next one. Yeah. So we started in 2017, and the project was divided in 9 terms. So like 3 terms per academic year. We started in November 2017 in Murcia, in Spain, with a transnational project meeting. These are meetings where all partners meet and discuss the progress, things to change, and the next steps in the project. Then we had another transnational project meeting and a teacher training in Wales in June 2018. So school teachers from these other 2 countries came to North Wales, and actually this was shown in the local media. And then also we used that opportunity to take all the teachers on Thursday to the Cardiff International Conference. That it's a conference that the International School Linking and Cardiff Council organize every 18 months for partners all over the EU. And then we had this Cardiff conference was also the multiplier event. So you have here like some of the photos of the meeting in Cardiff, the teacher training in Murcia, and also some of the teachers visiting our schools in Real. You can see like that's the Rhiwllan Castle, and actually it's very near of one of the schools, Esgole Castell. So that was a beautiful extra activity for the day, like just visiting the castle and so. If you click, we'll see the next one. We continued with 2018 to 2019. We all went to Murcia for another transnational project meeting and a pupil exchange. Pupil exchange, a teacher training event, we get only the teachers traveling. With pupil exchanges, we get also a group of selected pupils traveling. We cannot get the whole school to go there, especially because it's so many schools. But what our schools did is to choose digital champions, and these digital champions were participating in different mobilities. I believe that it was 4 or 5 pupils per school. So still, you get a large group, 5 schools in Wales, so you're going to have 25 pupils already traveling to another country. And that requires also all the appropriate risk assessments and so on. So it's important to keep the numbers not so high. This is actually a photo, a very nice photo that we took in Murcia. And if we click, that we have also one more bit of information. That is the second mobility that year, a transnational project meeting in Romania and another teacher training. So the teachers were traveling to Romania to get their training there. And we visited the House of Parliament and did other activities also in Romania. Next. And this is actually in the House of Parliament, yeah, like where we were welcomed and we were like the ambassadors there, like. So next. The third term was this academic year that it's now finishing. And then we started with November 2019 Transnational Project Meeting and Pupil Exchange 2 in Wales. So we got the pupils from Romania and Spain coming here to Wales. February 2020, teachers traveled to Spain. And unfortunately, you all know what happened just after February, March. So we had another mobility. Was supposed to be a pupil exchange in Wales. So the pupils were coming to Wales. And unfortunately, we couldn't welcome them because of the COVID-19 situation. And the Erasmus scheme didn't allow us to get any extensions. So we had to finish the project this summer. That was the deadline. So sadly, we had to cancel, and there were many heartbroken pupils that were waiting for their opportunities. But they all understand that the situation is what it is. So here are some photos of these teacher trainings in Murcia and in Spain again, and in Wales. And if we, next please. These are the intellectual outputs. So some of the outputs that we got out of this experience, and elements that will be available to everyone who might want to use them. I'll certainly make them available to WE. And we are actually translating into Welsh the final report, as I mentioned, so that it can be used by our schools, and actually schools in the 3 countries or even in any other country that would like to get an example of good practice and try to see the ideas and the lesson plans that were delivered in the different schools involved in the project. So we started with a baseline assessment. This was done in October 2017, and another one in 2020. And then from the questions that we got from the beginning at the end of the project, surveying parents, teachers, and pupils, we extracted the impact in each of the schools. Each of the schools actually wrote their own impact report. Then we created a digital tool and guide, thanks to Romanian and Spanish experts. And actually, there is this website that now is being already uploaded, where schools can actually check best practice for the use of copyrighted materials in schools, and to ask questions about what can be used or what shouldn't be used. And also we created the guide for those people who wouldn't want to use or don't have access to internet so easily, or don't want or cannot use the website. They can just check the guide that is in PDF. It's only been in English because we didn't get funding for the translation into the other languages, but it will be available as well now when we publish all the results. Next. We created a series of classroom materials thanks to the motivated teachers in the schools participating, and each of the schools created and delivered 9 lesson plans. So that means that because there were so many schools in the project, we got a pool of more than 100 lesson plans of different, targeting different age groups, and also like different subjects, to integrate, to use a digital component within that to deliver that subject. So this is a screenshot of the eTwinning website that we were using to share the information. So we were uploading their documents and everyone could have access to them. Then some photos of digital champions. I believe these are actually here in Esgol, Llywelyn. And then just doing some practices with coding and robotics. If you click, I think that there is still one more photo to go. Yes, next, please. No, it's not. Yeah. Okay, no more photos. So we move to another of the intellectual outputs. We created a pool of teacher training materials, presentations about copyright, how to use the internet in class, how to use different resources like Kahoot, Padlet, and different guides for this type of platforms online. And then many schools actually deliver teacher training within their own schools as well. So we've got all this compilation of materials to be used for teacher training in the future. Next. Then we also prepared parental engagement activities. One of the main points of this project was to get the parents involved. So that's why we actually asked them as part of the baseline assessment, and also we asked them again to get the feeling for the impact. And also each of the schools organized a school event for parents. Many times it was in form of an open evening or just a parents' evening, where the pupils, many times those digital champions that I mentioned, were actually talking or teaching their parents about how to use social networks or some of the coding activities they had been actually like learning from their experience in a school. And then these digital champions, as they were also trained, we also compiled and collated these materials for digital champion training material in the future. They can also many times be part of lesson plans, actually. Next, please. 07, that's a good practice guideline. It has an introduction, speaks about the local context in the participating schools and in the participating regions, intellectual outputs, best practice, and in this case, each of the schools wrote 3 cases that they of best practice in their own school, the impact that was also prepared by each of the schools, and then we have the regional impact and the conclusion, that it's just a shared conclusion of all the project. And this is at the moment the document that we are translating into Welsh, and that will be available also not only for the Erasmus scheme, that is the final compilation of, well, it's like the farewell for the project and the summary of all what's going on, lots of photos as well, so you can actually see what happened, and it can be used to replicate the project in the future or to adapt it for any other project that the schools might want to undertake. Next, final multiplier events. These are like big conferences like the one that we are attending today, and unfortunately, as you can see, lots of rubbing out because they were supposed to happen in May and June, and again, we were not given extensions. Therefore, COVID-19 didn't allow this to happen. We were thinking of organizing like WEG has done today. So, well, so it's been a fantastic effort. This international, well, this conference online, and we were thinking about also adapting and so. But basically, we couldn't find the time. So. In the future, we would also be looking into this type of resources, like moving online, so that we can still deliver these events if future pandemics happen. So, conclusions of the project, and this is a brief summary of what we extracted from the impact report. There is an increased confidence in the use of learning technology amongst teachers, and a wider variety of techniques used by the teachers in all these participating countries in all the schools. Then also increased confidence and use of learning technology amongst pupils, same here, both in a school and at home. And in North Wales, the pupils especially mentioned Hoop. Apparently, it's taking over lots of their online learning environment, starting from their email addresses, yeah, and then like going into like this Moodle-like space. So increased knowledge and confidence of parents about the use of technology for their pupils. They were happier for the pupils to spend more time on a screen, and also acknowledging the benefits of working with tablets in the schools or with coding and so on, and even smartphones actually were mentioned. Increased knowledge of different countries, languages, and cultures among all participants to all levels. because not only the participants traveling were able to benefit of this, but actually every time that we were having a mobility, the pupils in the whole school sometimes were decorating the whole corridors. I mean, there were so many, I don't remember seeing so many Welsh love spoons ever, like as in a school in Murcia, like all the walls decorated and lots of information. Each of the countries were researching with their pupils information about their other participating countries and stuff. So it was very enriching for language, culture, and community, and global citizenship. Increased awareness of copyright and internet safety, that was shown in the impact, so that was positive news. Next. Increased availability of home devices for pupils, and we acknowledge that it's also due to the natural pass of time. Obviously, like we moved from nearly 30% of the pupils having access to smartphones to nearly 80% in some of the schools. So that's a significant change. Next. Interest in future international partnerships. So some of the schools, and actually our schools in the real area, have applied for another Key Action 2 starting in 2020. If we are lucky, we haven't heard the result yet, but we are just waiting. And next, and that's it, I think. So quickly now I'll move to the Connecting Classrooms Through Global Learning. This is also a funding opportunity. It's something that we actually do through international links as well as the Erasmus applications. So something that we could offer to any schools in our network. And I remind you that in that case of joining through the network, it is under subscription. Unfortunately, it's not fully funded, but the opportunities are brilliant. And also, like, actually, these opportunities are actually open for everyone who would like to apply if they would like, but usually it takes lots of expertise and lots of time to complete some of these applications. So this year we completed 2 applications, one for a cluster of schools that was successful to go to Zambia and to do some job shadowing there, and another one to go to Lesotho, another cluster here in the north. Next, please. This is a little video. I won't show it to you, but it's available in the Connecting Classrooms. If you go to British Council and Schools Online, you'll be able to read a lot about what the British Classrooms, the Connecting Classrooms Through Global Learning is about, and you'll actually see all these promotional videos that are quite inspiring, actually. You see the teachers traveling there and enjoying themselves, by doing the job shadowing. Next. So these 2 clusters are going to Africa in this case, but Connecting Classrooms is much larger. I mean, you could be applying to go to South America, to Asia. Okay, I think that we've got, it's basically Asia, South America, and Africa, the 3 continents that you could get to travel. And traveling is actually also something that takes place within 1 week. So you will be missing only 1 week. And then what happens in that week is that you get the job shadowing experience there. And then teachers from Zambia also come to your school in Wales. So later on, in another opportunity, they also get the funds for that, to come to Wales and to observe best practice here in Wales and learn from Welsh schools. The Zambia cluster this year, it was Esgol, Betus and Ross, Brokernew, Roshellick, Bringwalia, and one more, I believe, Gwynedd. And maybe some of you are in these schools, again, I don't know. And this was actually in partnership with British Council Zambia that we completed this application. The brilliant, beautiful work of our school participants, actually. I am sometimes like a tyrant, I want, could you write this, please? And that we need this information from the schools that we cannot make up the service. So we need you to write something as well. And then I acknowledge that this is work, but makes everything much quicker and easier. Then the Lesotho cluster, we arranged it in partnership with Dolen Kemri. Maybe some of you are familiar with this as well. It's an institution that was born here in Carnarvon in North Wales, but then it moved to Cardiff when it became bigger. And it's actually involved in partnership work between schools in Lesotho and Wales. So in this case, it's Esgol Alin, Esgol Brindeva, and Esgol Brochet, MDH. And then at the moment, what's happened, you see here the COVID-19 here. By the way, very beautiful photo. I don't know if Caris might be here or not, in Betus and Ross, because they were part of a successful application also 2 years ago. So they joined this application again, and they were to go to Zambia again. This photo was taken the first time they were in Zambia. And unfortunately, all the mobilities are at the moment on hold because of the COVID-19 crisis. The British Council is overseeing this situation, and we are seeing if we can run the mobilities maybe from September, if we are lucky, otherwise from January, let's see. But at the moment, the funds are there. We were successful. And we're just waiting for the British Council to give us and COVID-19, obviously, to give us the green light. Next, please. And now, last but not least, I'm going to talk about international languages in schools in North Wales. That's something we do also from Bangor University. And this is actually something that is fully funded. So it's the Roots into Languages Kemri project. Maybe some of you are familiar also, we have been involved with this project. Actually, I think that even we on Esgol Craig, we've had a student language ambassador delivering language taster sessions there at some point last year. So what we do, I'm going to tell you what we do actually now. It's, next. Roots Kemri, it's a project that it's run all over Wales, and I am the coordinator here in the north. My office is at Bangor University, as Gavin mentioned at the beginning, but I forgot to say. So any of you also being in Bangor, I would be happy to welcome you in my office to talk about any of these projects. And then what we do is we deliver pupil-focused program of activities working closely with secondary and increasingly primary schools in across Wales. And especially this increasingly with primary is especially important because of the new curriculum for Wales and how international languages are introduced at the primary level. So Roots Kemri is externally funded, as I mentioned, and works in partnership with other 4 universities. We work with Cardiff University, Swansea, Aberystwyth, and Cardiff Met. So these are the 5 universities all over Wales that have languages being offered as a degree level. And then we also work with the regional consortia. We are lucky to be funded by GWE, by EAS, by CSC, and by ERU, thanks to the global futures funds that are being used by the regional consortia. And then we are also funded by the British Council and the European Commission up to just about the middle of this academic year, because obviously we all know what's happening with our relationship with the European Commission. So we'll be losing their funds. We are working in the planning of a toolkit at the moment for primary schools to deliver the international language element of the new curriculum for Wales. That's actually where most of our efforts are going now, since we started having the COVID-19 crisis and we had to cancel so many other events. We are focusing now in the creation and of this toolkit that will be available for everyone to use in any school. And we are trying to make it as general as possible so they can be used to promote any languages that the school wishes to promote. This will be available on our website, by the way, Roots Kemri. So I think that the website is at the end of in one of the slides, so you can have a look. At the moment, it's not there. We are developing it, but it will be. And yes, since 2016, Roots Cambridge has been devolved to university sector, as I mentioned. From 2016 to the present, we've actually enabled interaction with over 160 secondary and primary schools all over Wales. And we also work closely with language institutes. And I've put here some of the logo. Goethe Institute to promote German, the Education Office of the Spanish Embassy to promote Spanish, and the Institut Français for French. Next. And then our most valued asset is our student language ambassadors. These are student language ambassadors in these universities. So university students, in our case, we use the Bangor SLAs, obviously, that's the ones I coordinate. And we train them to work in schools and to deliver career talks or taster sessions of one of the languages they are studying. So this is something that increasingly has been actually requested by primary schools here in the north, where like they've just asked for a one-day visit from our SLAs, student language ambassadors, to deliver a day of Spanish activities, for instance, or something like that. Student and college language ambassadors, we also train college language ambassadors. So we've been working this training also with Colega Cymru. And then this year here in the north, we trained ambassadors, so 6 formers from Coleg Cambria in Yale, Coleg Cambria this side, and Coleg Dwyfor, Marion Dwyfor, never get it right, Marion Dwyfor, and also pupil language ambassadors. These are like year 8, year 9 pupils that are being trained in their own schools, or year 10 even, to deliver sessions or deliver talks to younger year groups within their own schools. So this is actually a very interesting project, and it's something that we had to cancel here in GUE this year as well, because it was scheduled for March actually. We are at the moment trying to see if we can deliver it next semester, in November maybe, but otherwise we might look into an online training as well. Let's see. Some of our SLAs, people language ambassadors, and so on. And some of our activities, you may have been involved in the National Spelling Bee competition. That's something we organize every year. This year it's been cancelled. Again, we couldn't put so many pupils, like hundreds of pupils in one conference room. Obviously, it's not the right moment. A-level master classes, where we deliver university lecturers deliver sessions for A-level students. Blas Arjaiz and Language Feast. These are big events for primary and secondary schools that I organize at Bangor University, and we've been lucky enough to have always a full event, like always booked up. And then Cardiff Oxford Creative Multilingualism Day, we collaborate with Oxford University and the Seren Network, funded by the Welsh government, to do a residential experience for schools all over the different regional consortia. And and since COVID-19, we are also offering online presentations. So our SLAs can be available online for an event like this and to connect with your pupils in class. We are now developing this YouTube channel as well, where we are uploading some of their talks so that they can be just broadcasted anytime. And we are offering the opportunity to have an online visit. So next, I think that I'm almost done. I probably talked too much. I think that we should give a chance to Ben now, because I don't want to take over.
Lovely.
This is something else that we are doing, like leaflets for governors, because we acknowledge how important it is to inform governors of the importance of the language component, and then to lobby from there. Also, we lobby stakeholders. We go regularly to the Global Futures meetings in the Welsh government building in Cardiff, and we work with the regional consortia leads for MFL.
Well, diolch yn fawr iawn, Ruben. Thank you ever so much.
Diolch i chi.
That was a fantastic whistle-stop tour of what you've got to offer. And as somebody who's benefited in the past many times from Erasmus and connecting classrooms, it can be quite safely say it can be life-changing experience. So diolch yn fawr iawn for that. And I know all the information that you've been talking about now, and that all the presentation will be available for people to see, and your details to get in touch with you. And thank you on behalf of everybody here in Gware for what you do. You make schools' lives a lot easier by completing those forms and getting them ready and assisting them with their applications. So diolch yn fawr iawn, Ruben.
Diolch i chi.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thanks, Ruben. So now we're going to try with Ben again. So hopefully the technology is working. So
fingers crossed. Is it working?
Yes, we've got you.
Oh my God. You cannot imagine. I spent most of Ruben's presentation scourging through my basement to find some prehistoric headphones. I'm so happy I don't need to use them.
So Ben, straight over to you. I've got your presentation here ready. We're good to go.
Great. Well, I mean, yeah, thank you, Gavin and Guillaume, for inviting me to this conference and giving me a space to talk a bit about the Kindness School Foundation, about what we do and why we're doing what we do. It's been a very, I guess, difficult time for everyone around the world, but it's been really inspiring to see how people have kind of come together to make things work. And you know, thanks again for in the nick of time, kind of burning the midnight oil and going from physical to digital with the conference. So yeah, I want to keep it short. I don't want to go into too much detail, but to tell you a bit about why it is that I started a project focused on kindness and what it is that we actually do. I think to start off, there's kind of two things that I've learned from the past, which are always very helpful to start off with. The first one is that, Gavin, if you can click onto the first, yeah. So the first one is that I'm not a teacher. I think that's kind of important to say. I come from a family of teachers. About 70% of my family at some point in time was in the teaching profession. And I decided I didn't want to become a teacher, but somehow I ended up back in the education system from a different perspective. But that in mind, knowing that I am not a teacher, I really emphasize working with teachers to make sure that whatever we do actually has some sort of value and that is kind of looked at from an expert perspective as well. The other one is, I don't think I'm a particularly kind person. I don't think I'm unkind in that sense either. But I've been, my friends jokingly over the past 2 years they started calling me Mr. Kindness because I keep doing projects around kindness. But kind of what this means to me, what kindness means to me and this project means to me is less, kindness is really important, and I guess it's the fundamental word that you could associate with a project, but it's in a broader sense, it's about, I think, the values and the social emotional skills that I believe are really necessary in today's world. So just as it is called the Kindness School Foundation, what I've been trying to do is about empathy, it's about compassion, it's about social emotional skills. So that's just the kind of the basics. So maybe a little bit about why kindness and why social emotional skills. And for me, there's two main reasons why I think kindness and empathy and compassion are so incredibly important. The first one relates to the Sustainable Development Goals. Some of you might know a lot about the Sustainable Development Goals. Some of you might have heard of them, but they're essentially a set of 17 goals that have been adopted by UN member states and that need to be reached by 2030. And they're essentially a kind of a call to action for us to tackle, for the world to tackle the most pressing challenges that we face. And they include topics around, well, access to quality education, of course, gender equality, reducing hunger and poverty, and protecting the natural environment. They are pressing challenges, without a doubt, that require our immediate attention. And we have theoretically 10 years to achieve these goals. And over the past years, with a background in social entrepreneurship and social innovation, I've spent a lot of time working with very inspiring people who are all working towards one or a few of these goals with their respective projects. And so when the point in time came where I had to ask myself, what is my contribution towards these goals? I guess I found myself confronted with the fact that despite all the amazing progress that is being done by all of these individuals, I feel that progress is still quite slow. And although there is a growing awareness, I feel, among all of these topics relating to the Sustainable Development Goals, I feel that there is a gap between knowing about the challenges that the world faces, and getting people to actively take action to solve those challenges. And that's why I think, and that's where I think social emotional skills and kindness and empathy and compassion are so fundamentally important. Because to tackle these challenges, let's say climate change, we need to be able to take action that might not directly benefit ourselves, but might benefit someone on the other side of the planet whom we've never met before, or someone who's not even born yet. And I think this requires such a profound sense of empathy and compassion that, without sounding too pessimistic, I feel we haven't yet got to that stage yet in order to effectively tackle those challenges. And that is why I decided that my contribution towards the Sustainable Development Goals would be to support schools on their journey to teaching those values of kindness and empathy and compassion that I think are so important to bring forward a new generation that will actually act to tackle those challenges. So that's the long explanation to the first reason why I started the Kindness School Foundation, why I started a project around kindness. And the second one, if we can move, yeah, thank you, Gavin. The second one relates to technology. And this may sound somewhat futuristic to some extent, but we all know how technology has become a very dominant part in our society today. And one thing that is often referred to is the fourth industrial revolution, which is the time between today and 2030 where technology is predicted to take over more and more parts of industrial processes, of tasks that people are doing in companies today. And the result is that there is a prediction for a very large shift in the labor market and for the skills that are going to be necessary in that labor market. Gavin, if you can click once more. Great, thanks. And so that's the other reason. If education is about preparing children for the world that they're going to enter tomorrow, then I think it's about understanding what that world will look like. And by all means, it seems that social emotional skills are going to be so fundamentally important in a world where technology takes over some parts of the jobs that we do. And we as humans will be focusing much more on the things that machines can't do. And those are things like showing empathy, caring for each other, and being creative. And that's why I think social emotional learning is such a fundamentally important part of education. So those are essentially the two reasons why I started a project around kindness, why I started to dive into the world of social emotional learning. And starting with kindness, the question is, of course, well, how do you teach children to be more kind to each other? How do you teach them that there is a beauty in being kind to someone and receiving kindness? And obviously, I think we can agree that simply, talking to defining kindness to a group of children is probably not enough. but it's about those experiences that we have with each other on a daily basis, the stories that we have that really help us understand the benefits of being kind to each other. And so I started a book which is called the Kindness Book. If we can go to the next slide, you can see an image of it. That is basically how it all started. And the idea is pretty straightforward. It's a place for children to document the small acts of kindness that they experience within classrooms. And essentially, the first child draws and writes about a story of kindness and then passes the book on to the person, the child who was kind to them, and that child writes a new story. And so the book fills up with stories over time that are all somewhat connected. I actually have a little video, and I'm going to hope technology is going to be kind to us this time. We have a little video about the book. Gavin, do you want to try? I don't think it's going to work. I do have my screen here that I can share. I have the video open. I thought that might happen. I can share the screen if you would like.
This is the Kindness Book. It collects moments of kindness. I feel down and get me up. Passing from one child to the next. From the storyteller to the child that was kind to them. I didn't know a dance. She was dancing, so I danced too. It travels around the class, school, wherever the trail takes it. My cat was hit by accident, and he had to get to the vet, but my friend Iris, she lets us by pain. One time I lost my self-confidence, and my friend made me get attacked by saying nice things that I never knew I could do, and he was right. And then I got my self-confidence back. I fell over my scooter and it was really ouchy. I put my way off the ouch.
Gavin, you just told me that you've lost connection.
Yeah, sorry, Ben, we missed the video. We lost internet connection here, so apologies.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if the rest of the participants saw the video.
Yeah, I don't think we did at all, Ben.
Okay, you need to play that again?
No, I don't think we can get it to work, you know, so apologize.
Okay.
What we can do is we can put a link to it where it's on a site somewhere, so people can watch it at a time that after this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Technology is not being nice to us today. Anyway, yeah, we'll share the link, and so essentially what we did is what I did is I collected a bunch of money. I collected some funds to print a whole bunch of kindness books, and we sent out over 3,000 books to schools across, I think, 41 countries. And what we did is we started collecting the stories, and a lot of the stories that we got back were just absolutely amazing, and the feedback was brilliant as well. We had what our plan was to collect these stories and project them onto the House of Commons last year during times of Brexit to kind of highlight the importance of being kind to each other, which I thought would have been, in theory, a good point in time to do that. Unfortunately, because of Brexit, it was so difficult to actually follow on and to actually book the House of Commons. So we've moved that backwards a bit, probably to next year. Nonetheless, it will be a good time to talk about kindness, I think. So that's the kind of the story behind the book, which kicked off a project about kindness. And throughout the whole journey, I was approached by a lot of teachers who asked me for additional resources to complement the book, and that they could use, especially in the English context, in the English primary school context, to go alongside with the new health education and relationship education subjects that are going to be introduced this September. So that really kind of kicked off a journey from taking a book and taking it more into a whole school approach and developing lesson plans and presentations that teachers can use to talk about a variety of different subjects, all related to kindness. Gavin, if you can click another slide. Oh yeah, those are some of the stories that we collected, and we can go one more as well. So what we basically came up with is something that we call the philosophy of kindness, and it's built on 3 principles, which is about being kind to yourself, being kind to the people around you, and being kind to the planet and the wider world. And in the simplest form, it's really about kindness towards yourself, which is about talking about mental well-being, talking about physical health, and framing it in a way to show children that taking care of your mental and physical well-being is an act of kindness towards yourself. Kindness towards others is about showing children the importance of building meaningful and long-lasting relationships, respecting each other, being tolerant, and that it's a fundamental principle of a strong and a healthy society. And then kindness towards the planet and the wider world is about encouraging teachers and encouraging children to learn about the global challenges that I talked about right at the start, getting them to learn about things like climate change or gender inequality or poverty, but also to make them understand that they as an individual can actually have an influence on the world and the way that the world works, and that they don't just need to be bystanders, but that they actually can take action to influence the world in the way that they think it should be working. So that's the philosophy of kindness. And we developed it basically to go alongside the 2 new subjects that are going to be introduced. So kindness towards yourself, again, is about it covers topics within health education. We talk about mental well-being, recognizing and understanding emotions, recognizing your mental well-being or taking care of mental well-being, and your physical health and fitness. So those are the topics that are covered in there. Relationship education, this is the part of our philosophy of kindness toolbox, which relates to being kind to the people around you. So we talk about how to build, or why are family relationships important, how to build caring friendships. We talk about online relationships, online and offline relationships, and why they're different, and why they're still the same. And then the part with kindness towards the planet and the wider world fits more into the global citizenship part. And so the question is, of course, well, why is this relevant? Why am I here? Why is this relevant for schools in Wales? So if you can we click to the next slide? So we are now, we have about 80 schools who are involved in the project, who have signed up and who are using the philosophy of kindness toolbox. And most of these schools are schools in England. And in starting September for the next year, what we want to do is we want to see how these lesson plans are being used, and we want to gather feedback, and we want to continuously grow the pool of these resources and make them as relevant as possible. I think you might have gone back a slide rather than forward. Oh yeah, perfect. And then, so what we want to do is building on that understanding from this initial implementation in English schools. We want to basically take what we've got and we want to adapt it to adapt the toolbox to the Welsh context. We want to pilot it within schools, understand where the gaps are, and then essentially be ready for 2022. So that's a bit about the toolbox. The question, of course, is, well, what does this cost? I started the project with the idea that I could raise the money from different places to make this completely free. And that worked for the Kindness Book for a certain amount of time. But I soon realized that it's not really a long-term sustainable solution. So we eventually developed a membership plan where there's an annual membership fee, which is different depending on whether you're a public or a private school. So it's £150 a year for a public school and £300 for a private independent school. And all of that money basically goes into developing new content that is then again shared with the schools. And then there's also the books, of course, that schools can purchase if they'd like to. Now, if you can click once more, what we've done now during COVID is we've basically just halved the price. We saw that a lot of schools were in a difficult situation. We thought, great, how can we help? You know what, let's just reduce it by half. So any schools signing up right now basically can access it for the whole for the whole year from September, from now throughout September all the way to August 2021. Then something else that we've done that I'd kind of encourage anyone on listening is something that we did during COVID-19 lockdown homeschooling times. We thought, well, this is really difficult. We had a lot of teachers kind of contacting us and asking us for support. And so what we did is we developed a kindness calendar, basically with a weekly theme. This one here is about looking after our families, and with an activity for each day that teachers could download for free every week and then send to all of the parents so they could then use them as a small side activity at home. And if you go to the next slide. Yes, so there's a whole variety of kindness calendars available. These are, of course, now not outdated, but we released them we're still releasing the last ones. But I would encourage anyone who's interested to maybe use them in September in the new school year. They're free, and you can access them on the link that's below. And also something else that I thought would be interesting to mention is that in this, so last year I was lucky enough to be selected by UNESCO as a UNESCO youth leader, and at the conference in New Delhi, I got together with a group of about 60 other youth leaders from around the world, and we formed what we called the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness. And so it's a collective of different people working on social emotional learning from a variety of different perspectives. And our main goal right now is to submit a UNESCO declaration on social emotional learning. And basically our goal is to emphasize the importance of social emotional learning within education systems. And because all of us come from a kind of a non-profit field, we felt that such a declaration can actually help organizations like ours push in our regional governments to emphasize social emotional learning. So the goal is to get this UN to get it adopted, signed and adopted by UN member states, probably in 2 years' time. But that is something that's cooking at the moment as well. We have a whole list of great partners that have been really, really helpful over the past 2 years. Life University, UNESCO, of course. We have from the Peace Nobel Prize laureate Kailash Satyarthi. We have a lot of support from their side in kind of bringing together this toolbox that we've developed over the past months. And that's pretty much it. And I think we have 5 minutes left for questions if there are any. And other than that, thank you very much for having me.
Well, diolch yn fawr iawn, Ben. Thank you ever so much indeed. That was that's a great idea. And in this time that we're in at the moment, yes, you're absolutely right. You know, it's a time to be kind to each other, to be empathetic, and have those true values that you've just explained through to us now. We were with the great Steve Mumby this week, and he introduced us to a phrase that has resonated with me and stuck in my mind, and you used the word a few times, and he said it's a time that we need to use compassionate leadership and empathetic leadership. And if we as teachers and staff and school leaders you know, can use that kind of leadership, then obviously that's something we want to invest in our children as well, and in our pupils. And what better way to do that than to get them to talk about kindness and how to treat each other, especially in these difficult times and moving forward. So you've given us a lot to think about. Diolch yn fawr iawn, and I know you've given up your time to be with us, and sorry for the technical hitches, but I think it all came over loud and clear. So,
thanks a lot, Ben.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Right, well, dyna diwedd yn gynhadledd ni heddiw. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Mae gen i un neu ddau o bethau pobl i ddiolch yn y munud, ond dwi'n gobeithio ydych chi wedi cael diwrnod da. I hope you've had a good day. We'll keep referring back to the curriculum for Wales and the 4 purposes, y 4 diben. Yn enwedig yn ysyddion egwyddorol gwybodus ac unigolion iach hyderus, dwi'n siŵr, especially ethical informed citizens and healthy confident individuals within the new curriculum. What an opportunity we've got here in Wales. We've got a fantastic opportunity with our new curriculum on the horizon, and once we have this situation out the way, I'm sure we can drive forward with that. And who knows, you know, the time we've had over the last few months may actually have brought us closer to reaching that goal. Cyfleoedd anhygoel i symud ymlaen i'r curriculum newydd. Dwi just am gorffen. I'm just going to finish by thanking a few people. So I'm gorffen trwy diolch i ambell berson. Mae gennym ni llawer o bobl i diolch, ond yn gyntaf gai diolch i chi i wrando, pawb sydd wedi ymuno efo ni heddiw. Da ni wedi cael dros 240 o bobl yn checio mewn yn ystod y diwrnod. We've had over 240 people checking in during the day and listening to parts of the day, so huge thank you to you for that. Diolch yn fawr iawn i'n siaradwyr ni, Jazz, Claire a Nina o Glyndŵr, Merfi a James, Anna o'r Senedd, Ieuenctid, Nick Butter, Joe, Miguel, ffrindiau o Rhyngwladol, Ben, Ruben yn y sesiwn olaf. And hefyd, just 2 person dwi eisiau diolch. I've got to first of all thank the gentleman who sit over. You haven't seen him right the way through the session, but diolch yn fawr iawn i Gwion in dyn tech ni. Gwion sitting over here in the corner and has done an amazing job putting all this up today. Perhaps a way of working in the future. Ella hwnna di'r dyfodol. But the main person I want to thank today really is here, Gavin Cass. Gavin's put all this together. Diolch yn fawr iawn i Gavin. He's spent a lot of time contacting people, and yeah, this is his day, he realised. So yeah, being pioneering in himself. So diolch yn fawr iawn i chdi, Gavin. Okay, like to say anything?
No, just thank you very much for everybody tuning in, and I'm ready to go and sit in a dark room.
Diolch, Gavin. So diolch yn fawr iawn pawb. A cofiwch, sgwennwch unrhyw beth yn yr ochr. Keep writing things in the side if you haven't given us any feedback. Unrhyw adborth yn werthfawr. So diolch yn fawr iawn, and just remember, you can watch all this again or share it amongst your friends. It'll be on the GWER website. We tweet it out again, and it'll be on our new GWER YouTube channel. So diolch yn fawr iawn pawb. Nos da.